Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm Guy, and we are post game on YouTube. Live on YouTube. If you're here, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Even if you're not happy, you're definitely not happy. John will be with us in a little bit. Niners lose the Super Bowl in heartbreaking fashion. And we're going to spend some time tonight trying to figure out what are all the reasons why. I mean, on one hand, I go, well, this is what it must have been like for, the Suns, the Jazz. The 49ers feel like the Utah Jazz right now in the 90s. That might be too old of a reference for some of you, but it's appropriate because that's the last time the 49ers actually won a Super Bowl. It's been a long time, and it feels like you're going up against Michael Jordan, and you just can't give Michael Jordan too many chances. I picked the Niners to win this game 31-24, and there were so many plays that were the difference in this game. It felt like in two critical spots, it was Kyle Shanahan against Steve Spagnuolo, and Steve Spagnuolo won. He won. Now, the Niners got field goals. They got a field goal to go up 21-19 in overtime, or 22-19 in overtime. But, I heard Romo said, maybe you should have gone for it on that 3rd and 4 late in the game or late in the overtime and try to score the touchdown. I had no problem taking the ball first, and I'll tell you why. I guess we're diving right in here. We're just diving right in. I had no problem taking the ball first because your defense was gassed. Your defense had just been on the field. Mahomes had just driven down the field on them. And I understood taking the football first in that spot. It feels like maybe your offense is in a less pressurized position. And I was good with it. I supported it. I felt okay about it. I did think about it a lot in that moment. Like in the college, very much like in the college spot, you don't want to take it at first because you want to know what you have to do. You want to know if you're going to have to score a touchdown or not. But I think their defense was so gassed, and maybe even more so in the overtime. It showed up again. I don't know. I mean, they were so good up front in the first half of the game, and it's just the longer a game goes against Mahomes, maybe the worse off you're going to be. So we'll talk a lot about that. I do want to say hello to everybody watching. If you're listening to the podcast after the fact, it's great to have you there as well. Thanks for being along all season. And if you're watching, thanks to you also. So that was the first thing. I mean, I think one of the big questions this offseason and in the next season, one of the big storylines when the Chiefs open the year as the Super Bowl favorites is Kyle Shanahan capable of winning a Super Bowl? Is Brock Purdy capable of winning a Super Bowl? Can this team respond from pain and pain and pain again and still come back swinging? I do worry about that. Like my first thought beyond just the game is about 2024. How many times can you lose and still come back hungry? Will this group be able to come back hungry? Will they be able to get themselves? You don't know how many chances you get to be in this position. And you saw this year was another great example. I mean, the Kyle teams have been around the ball, so to speak. They've put themselves near championships, but they haven't won it. And you just wonder how many times can you get back here? So, I was building a list during the game of talking points if they win and talking points if they lose, right? What kind of the narratives and storylines are if they win, what some of the narratives and storylines are if they lose. And, there were, I think, for me, probably definitely two big play calls that stood out. Other moment that I know I see is coming up a lot, Jake Moody missing the extra point, which I want to get to that, a point on that in a minute. But, I thought this game was won and lost in a few spots. And I'll go backwards, but the 49ers on 4th and 1 for the second time in the game, Nick Bosa crashes down the line of scrimmage and Patrick Mahomes takes off running. I mean, in some big spots, the Chiefs offense, which was not great for most of the game, although Mahomes threw for 333, they took candy from a baby. And that was one of them. 4th and 1, and Bosa just comes screaming down the line after Pacheco, who does not have the football. Mahomes had the football. And Romo spent a lot of time during the broadcast, rightfully saying the Niners were doing a pretty good job, and he focused a lot on Bosa, on being disciplined, staying outside, maintaining pocket integrity. But in two big spots, he didn't know that Patrick Mahomes had the football. And Patrick Mahomes had the football. I mean, I know it was 4th and inches, but the second the Chiefs lined up in shotgun spread it out on 4th and 1, I thought Niners got a shot to win the game right here. Like if they had lined up under center, I think I would have felt different. They lined up 4th and 1 shotgun, and I felt really good about the Niners' chance to win the Super Bowl right there. Once they pick that up, it really changes. Go back. Another very significant play. 3rd down and 4. And I sent this play for those of you, you can go to my Twitter page at Guy Haberman. Go watch the play, the 3rd down and 4 play. The Niners have the ball in overtime, in their possession, right? 3rd and 4, it's the ball. Purdy gets pressured up the gut by Chris Jones, just kind of throws it nowhere near Juwan Jennings, and they end up kicking the field goal. On that play, not only does Jennings eventually come open, but Brandon Ayuk, people, is as wide open as you cannot be more wide open in the red zone than Brandon Ayuk was on 3rd down and 4. Now, he's coming off the backside. Purdy is looking to his right. He does not have nearly enough time to get to Ayuk. And I sent it to my buddy Jeff Schwartz, former NFL offensive lineman. He was on the YouTube channel last week. What's the deal, Jeff? Well, Jeff, I just retweeted it. He replied and he posted, because I said, how does Chris Jones why is Chris Jones unblocked? And his conclusion was that everybody had to pick. There were too many guys, that the Niners, somebody was coming free. Now, personally, Chris Jones is not the one you want coming free, but that the Chiefs just had the right call at the right moment. So Steve Spagnuolo beat Kyle Shanahan on the biggest 49ers offensive play of the season. Beat him. Ayuk, defender falls down. If Purdy has another half a second, he can either hit Jennings. He'll have 2 guys he can throw a touchdown to, Jennings or Ayuk. And he didn't have that time because Spagnuolo beat Shanahan on that play. The last 49ers possession of regulation. This is the other play. 3rd down and 4. 2-minute warning. You pick up the 1st down, you probably win the Super Bowl. Eventually, the Niners kick the field goal with Moody, 53-yarder. They go up 19-16, and Mahomes ties the game. But it's 3rd down and 4, 2 minutes. Spagnuolo's been blitzing and blitzing and blitzing. He blitzes, and they don't even get anything. Like, not even close. Didn't even have a shot. Didn't even give him a chance on that play. And they kicked the field goal. Those, to me, were the 3 plays that were the difference in the Super Bowl. The last 2 Niners possessions and then the last Kansas City possession. There's a bunch of plays we could pick out. The fact that they held Kansas City to a field goal at the end of regulation felt like a miracle at that time. But I'd say those are my 3 plays right now that really jump out to me. 2 failed offensive 3rd down conversions. And when I say, it's one thing if you extend a play and throw to a guy and it's just out of his reach, or if you hand it off and he gets stopped after a 3-yard gain. But there was not even a chance to make a play. Both of those plays were dead on arrival. No shot. And that's really frustrating when their call is so much better than your call that your guys, you don't even have a chance to make a play. And then, like I said, the Bosa play in overtime was the other one. A lot of people you'll point to Moody missing an extra point. That's a legitimate thing. Like, that happened. Bad kick by Moody, got blocked. Instead of it being 17-13, it's 16-13. And that gives Kansas City the chance to tie the game, which they do at 16-16. But here's what I'll say about that. We don't know. We don't know. There's a chance that was a blessing in disguise, as crazy as that sounds. Because if the Niners don't miss that extra point, then when Andy Reid gets the ball down, 4th and goal at the 3-yard line, maybe they go for they definitely go for the touchdown there. They don't try and kick the field goal. because there's 5.5 minutes left. They're down by 4 if Moody had made that extra point. So, yeah, you could have won the Super Bowl right there on 4th down and goal from the 3. You might have also lost it right there. Eventually, you come back and kick the field goal. You take the lead back. They come down and their field goal, maybe wins them the game. So, well, I guess, no, that wouldn't have been the case. You're up 14. Let's say you're up 17 to 13, excuse me. If Moody makes that extra point, it's 17-13. They get the ball. Maybe they score a touchdown. They go up 3. Then your 3 ties the game. Then their 3 wins the game. So, yeah, I mean, look, missing an extra point in the Super Bowl is catastrophic. But I do think there's a world where it actually works against the Niners in the long run. It's on the list. It's on the list of plays that cost you the Super Bowl. But I think those other 3 plays I mentioned were more devastating. And specifically the 2 3rd down and 4s. Niners had 2 3rd and 4s on their last 2 possessions. You pick up one of those, you probably win the Super Bowl. You pick up one of them, you win the championship. And they didn't even get close on either. Those are my 3. So if I'm missing, for those of you who are watching this thing live, whatever I'm missing, I know I'll try and keep up with. I'm trying to get all my thoughts out before I start getting into the chat and getting myself distracted. But I will get to a couple super chats right now. Alien 10 spot. We win the game if the Chiefs have to drive down the field for a touchdown. Missed extra point, killed us. I just addressed this, but I'll say again, I think maybe. I know if you get either of those 3rd and 4s, your chances of winning the Super Bowl go up by a massive percentage. You get that extra point. What happened next? The Chiefs got down to the 3-yard line, so they'll just go for it on 4th down. The play that they ran for the touchdown is probably the play they would have run on 4th down and 3, down by 4. So, I can't put that one as high as those others, but I'm not going to argue a missed extra point was bad. Super chat from Maitland Eagle. That was a terrible game. Niners defense played well enough to keep us in the game. Niners offense looked terrible. Nitpicking, calling out Bosa. Yeah, it is nitpicking. This is nitpicking. This is the Super Bowl. We shall nit and pick. I don't look at it as calling out Bosa. I look at it as the plays that won and lost the championship, and that was one of them. 5 spot, thank you. Super chat. They also need to go for it on 4th. In the 4th, field goal was never going to win it. That's what Romo suggested. I was okay kicking the field goal there because, then you don't get it. A field goal loses it and you don't get to overtime. But I understand. I do think you could look at it this way. 3rd down and 4 down territory, hand the ball to Christian twice, go win the game. That'd be legitimate. But, they're getting the ball back anyway. So I guess they probably, and they got down to the red zone. But yeah, I think you can make that case. Super chat from Sarah. Can you address all these people saying Purdy played bad? How? He did a really good job. It was a team sport. It's a team sport. I'm proud of him. Well, I thought in big spots, he was not put in good spots with those 2 3rd down and 4s against the pressure. They just didn't have the right. Spagnuolo beat Shanahan in those spots. So I didn't put that on Brock. If you had told me coming out that Brock would be 23 of 38 for 255, a touchdown and no picks. So what is that? That's probably 60%. 23 divided by 38. 60.5%, 61%. I'd be a little alarmed, right? If you 38 pass attempts, if you knew that's how many pass attempts Brock had, you would say there's a chance that this is not their type of game. You go back to the first half and the McCaffrey fumble, the second possession, Trent Williams gets the hold and the false start. That really hurt because at that time they were working off their script and they were over 9 yards of play. The 49ers were after their first 2 possessions, over 9 yards of play and did not have a single point to show for it. 38 pass attempts is the second most of the season for Purdy. He had 39 against the Green Bay Packers. So I thought Purdy was fine. I thought Purdy was, for the most part, if you had watched him, if I somehow you were able to see him play without knowing what happened in the game, it would have looked, I thought, good enough to win it. But in crunch time, his team, and I think in large part because of the plays that they had called against Spagnuolo, his team lost. I thought he made some excellent throws. He did not look flustered at all from the second he stepped on the field. He did not look like a guy who'd never been there before. He looked ready. So I think there are a lot of things that lost him this game. He could have made a couple more plays. But I think when you look at the throws that he missed and the plays he didn't make, mostly he was under extreme pressure in those spots. I can't think real quick here. We can think about it. Somebody tell me if I'm missing one of any obvious plays that he missed that were there to be made. He missed Deebo Samuel over the top in the end zone. He was getting crushed by Chris Jones. I mean, Chris Jones really affected this game for Kansas City in the way that people would be afraid that Chris Jones would be able to disrupt the game. So I think early in the game, they were blocking well too. That did not continue. Chris Jones was a problem. But, he throws the deep ball to Deebo Samuel early that gets broken up by Trent McDuffie. That's just Deebo doesn't win that play. I've been telling you guys about this since training camp. The 49ers don't win those deep balls with Deebo Samuel. And today they really didn't win any, right? I mean, Ayuk, and will be interesting to see what the explanation for that ball on the early possession, whatever it was, the third possession of the game. Yeah, the third possession of the game that eventually got the Moody field goal. Will be interesting to see what they say about that. But they missed that. Ayuk had his guy beat. Deebo had his guy beat in the end zone, missed that. But those were Chris Jones. The second one was a Chris Jones play. The first one, there was pressure as well. So I thought Brock was okay, man. I really did. I thought he was good enough to win the Super Bowl. If I know the offseason conversation, a lot of it will be, can you win a championship with Brock? I've said for months, I believe you can. I still believe you can. Seeing a guy play that under control, make that many right decisions, make that many good throws. I think he's good enough. I still think he's good enough. And we'll have time to talk about what comes next. But they should be still a pretty stacked roster in 2024. I don't know who wants to hear that right now, but they should be a pretty stacked roster in 24. Dante says Purdy was like a B grade. I'm going to watch the game again, but I think that's probably correct. That's probably fair. I mean, there were a couple moments where you just had to go beyond your coach's capability. The coach can't be on the field for you, so you got to go make the play. And, he made a couple. He did. He made a couple. But ultimately, I think it was more they had the wrong call. Niners had the wrong call. Chiefs had the right call in the biggest moment. Flavor, Reborn Restorations. That might be a business there. So 2 spot on Super Chat. Brock is good enough as Kyle. I still believe that he is. I know that's probably going to be an unpopular opinion here on Sunday night and maybe on Monday morning. But yes, I do think Kyle Shanahan is good enough to win a Super Bowl. He hasn't done it. He didn't do it tonight. I do think he can do it. So I think he's good enough, but I know we'll, I won't go further there right now because I know we'll probably have a lot more of that to get to. Kyle Burka, real name on the internet, bold, 20 spot Super Chat. Great content all year. Thanks, guy. This one hurts. Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate that. What else? I think we've probably seen the end of Steve Wilkes. He called a pretty damn good game for a lot of the game. But to see Kyle Shanahan step in at the end of the game and call a timeout because he didn't like the defense, and this Romo was right there with him. Romo didn't like the blitz on 3rd and 6 that got him the Rashee Rice first down, where Rice just came across. I think it was was it Logan Ryan that came off the edge? Rice ran right by him, and man, Patrick Mahomes made it look easy. And then he definitely didn't like what was going to be a 2nd and 6, zero coverage pressure situation again. Shanahan calls the timeout. Shanahan's screaming into the headset. Shanahan is still talking into the headset and making sure they got the call that he wanted. So it feels like those two guys are not on the same page. Maybe I'm wrong, but it just feels like he might be looking for another defensive. Crazy because they were physically, they had players not live up to hype. They had players get hurt. They were 3rd in the league in points. That's just what it feels like Sunday night. Maybe I'll feel differently Monday or after I watch it again, but just specifically seeing Kyle get that upset in that moment and calling the timeout in that spot. Yeah, I just think he's going to do. I think he's going to try and make a move. Now to what? I don't know what's really out there, but that's a conversation. That's a conversation for another time. But it feels like that's happening. Did he abandon the run? Did Kyle Shanahan cost them the game with his play calling, not at the end of regulation or in overtime, but in the second half? I mean, let's revisit how the 49ers ran offense in the second half. They start the second half with an interception. Jair Brown picks off Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is not going to make many mistakes. Patrick Mahomes is not going to help you out. At that point, you had been all over him in the first half, even though statistically his percentage was good. Mahomes was 11 of 13 in the first half, but he was under a lot of pressure, or as we like to say in NFL films, duress. He was under a lot of duress. And then the second half starts, and you think, okay, maybe the long halftime, is he going to have time to reset? And he comes out and throws the pick on a really bad decision and a really bad throw from him. So the Niners take over the Kansas City 44. Purdy gets blitzed, has to throw it away. Chenal comes up like the left middle, right? And Purdy just has to get rid of it. He actually did a pretty good job because he got away from Chris Jones. So, I don't know if you should look back and go, Kyle, you should know the pressure's coming right there. But they don't run the ball on first down. Okay, so now it's 2nd and 10. Aaron Banks gets the Niners' 3rd false start of the game at that point. Now it's 2nd and 15. 2nd and 15, Brock makes a really bad throw to Debo. We have to watch it again. I didn't think it was tipped. It was just a bad throw, very low. Debo had no shot at it. So now it's 3rd and 15. Can you get to field goal range? No. Brock runs. Willie Gay tracks him down. They got a punt. Chris Conley, who if the Niners win this game probably would have been like top 5 MVP voting, makes a great tackle down to the 2-yard line on the punt. Not a tackle. He downs it at the 2. So, okay, you did not run the ball in that possession. Fine. Once you get to 2nd and 15, tough spot, but not running it on first down when they blitzed you turns out to be a mistake, right? So Spagnuolo wins, you lose in that spot. Spagnuolo won, 49ers lost on that possession. All right, next possession. Purdy, first down. Actually, I said he evaded Chris Jones. No, he didn't. He just threw the ball away on the Chenal blitz. The next possession is, again, first down after the punt. Almost gets sacked. Tries to, they're throwing on first down. Gets away from Jones. Throws it to Jennings. Nice little sidearm, but he loses yardage. Okay. So now it's 2nd and 18. Check down to McCaffrey. 3rd and 11. Incomplete. Down that left sideline. Kittle never saw it. Debo got hurt. Punt. Chris Conley tackle. Okay. Haven't run. It's been like an hour since the second quarter. The Niners haven't run the football. So Chiefs get the ball. They kick a field goal. It's 10-6. Niners next possession. They run on first down. No game. Then 2nd and 10. Not only do they not run, they go empty. So the Chiefs know you're not running the ball here on 2nd and 10. That was a spot, and I thought, you know what? I thought Romo was good in this game. I know Romo, him and Nance, they got heavily criticized by Andrew Marchand of The Athletic. I saw in an elevator in Vegas, said hello to. Nice guy, good, excellent writer. A lot of criticism, and it was a good scoop by Marchand because clearly somebody around Romo thinks he's not prepared enough. Romo was really good in the Super Bowl. He said, Kyle, run it again on second down. Shanahan did not run it on second down. They throw the ball incomplete. Third down, throw the ball. McDuffie has undercuts. These against really good man-to-man cornerbacks, 50-50 balls to Debo, he's not going to win. That's just not his strength. It's not his strength when you're playing McDuffie. It's not his strength when he's playing Mooney Ward or Diamador Lenore in camp. That is not his strength. So McDuffie all over him. Debo's got to break it up. So now the Niners have had 3 possessions, and they've run the ball one time. Now, in fairness to them, their mistake of not running it on first down and second down on that drive, or first down on the other 2 drives, they make mistakes and then they put themselves in you got to pass situations. But that's Spagnuolo winning. 4th Niners possession. Hard to really criticize them here because they score a touchdown. They throw the ball on first down, though. Purdy, I think the ball got tipped. I write in my notes, the ball gets tipped. Didn't get tipped. Just came out bad. But McCaffrey, Jennings, Debo, Juice, Ayuk, big play. So then they're rolling. Okay. But, that was the third quarter. It ended at that point. They did not score. They did not run the ball. They ran the ball like twice. They ran the ball twice in the third quarter. That's the number. I'm looking at it here. I think 2 runs in the third quarter. 3, because Juice ended the third quarter with a 2nd and 1 run. So did he abandon the run? I think that's going to be one of the big narratives in this game. I think abandon is too strong. I think he put himself in bad spots where he had to throw. But by not running on first down, they did that to themselves. And by getting beat by Spagnuolo on the first down play after the interception, they did it to themselves. So I thought mark that down. I said there were 2 critical plays where Spagnuolo beat Shanahan. Really, there was 3 then, right after the interception. That's another one. Spagnuolo had the right call. Shanahan had the wrong call. And big moment there. Murray on the stream says, none of our star guys on offense took over the game. McCaffrey, Ayuk, Kittle, Debo, couldn't get anyone going. I mean, ultimately, McCaffrey had 8 catches for 80 yards. He had 22 carries for 80 yards. So he had 160 yards in the game, 190 yards in the game. I thought McCaffrey was really good. I mean, I know 3.5 yards a carry, but that's okay. That's your recipe. McCaffrey as a hammer, as a 160. Bad math by your boy. 160. 8 times 2 is 16. 160. If you told me 160 yards for McCaffrey, but he only did it on 3.6 yards per carry before the game, I'd say, okay. You know what that sounds like? That recipe? That sounds like the recipe of salting the game away. So I thought McCaffrey was really good. I think Jennings was going to be the Super Bowl MVP. If the Niners had won the game, he threw a touchdown pass. He caught a badass touchdown pass. 7th round quarterback thrown to a 7th round receiver. Debo, 11 targets, 3 catches. Carrying the ball, not effective. But I think so much of Debo, it's about getting him the ball in a creative way in space and then letting him make plays. When I see him getting targeted 11 times and catching 3, that's usually not a Debo problem. That's usually a ball placement problem, an offensive problem. Like I just said it, but I'll say it again. Debo doesn't win over the top 50-50 balls. That's a losing play. And it's been a losing play if you've been watching the show or listening to me since training camp. I've been saying it since then. I've said it before the season. Every practice I went to, it felt like they threw one ball over the top to Debo per practice just to keep him engaged. But it never worked. It never worked. Ever. Didn't work. Didn't work in camp. Doesn't work during the season. 50-50 ball, jump, deep balls, whatever. And it didn't work in the Super Bowl. I get it. Throw it. Fine. You got a guy in the end zone. Take a shot. He doesn't win in that spot. Kittle. 2 for 4. I don't know what happened on the sideline ball on third down. Did Purdy throw it to a place where Kittle wouldn't expect the ball to be? I don't know. I thought in the run game, him and Juszczyk was good today. Juszczyk made another spectacular first down play. They didn't review it. They explained on television it was a football move after the catch. I agree, but felt like a dicey play. Elijah Mitchell was good in his limited action. Jennings, mentioned him, was good. Ayuk, to me, I didn't expect a big game from Ayuk because of how good these DBs are. But Ayuk made a couple of big plays when they had to be made. And I thought it was a pretty prototypical Ayuk game. 3 for 49. You're going to find him over the middle in a big spot. He's going to get himself open. That was a pretty classic Ayuk game. I think top to bottom, those guys did enough. The 49ers had the wrong plays called on 3rd and 4 twice, and that's why they lost the Super Bowl. Steve Spagnuolo beat Kyle Shanahan in those 2 spots, and that's why they lost the Super Bowl. That's where I'm at on Sunday night. Where I'm not at is, Kittle should have been better. It's Debo. Debo wasn't a war daddy tonight. I don't know. I mean, it was not great, but I thought all those, as a collective, they made enough plays, and then they didn't get a chance. That's why I'm saying what I'm saying. Those guys didn't get a chance to make a play. They didn't get a chance. 3rd down and 4 at the end of the overtime, or in overtime, 3rd down and 4, their last possession. Didn't get a chance. Jason on the stream says, window now officially closed. I disagree. Why? I think this team's going to be really talented again next year. It sucks. It's painful. It really hurts after the moment when you know how hard it is to get to the Super Bowl, how long it took you to get here, how many things you had to overcome, all the close calls. But I disagree that the window's officially closed. Your quarterback's still cheap, and you're going to still have most of your best players back. So, yeah, I don't agree. I don't agree that the window's closed. I agree that this is your best shot. This was your best shot because you were there. But that I would agree with. But I do not think the door is closed. Losing Dre Greenlaw, I mean, how hard to quantify. The Niners, just one of the freakiest injuries you've ever seen. And of course, it would happen to the Kyle Shanahan 49ers. They feel just weird stuff happens to everybody. So there's no, this is just them. But God, the Greenlaw injury, absolutely brutal. And then I'll tell you what, the reason this just occurred to me. The reason after the Packer game, I said, I think you got to go Jair Brown instead of Logan Ryan, was that kind of like rub route pick play that the Packers ran. I think it was a 2-point conversion. Whether it was a 2-point conversion or a touchdown, it was the front right pylon in a short goal to go situation. And Logan Ryan got put in a bad spot, couldn't make a play. Who gets hurt? Jair Brown. He's off the field at the end of the game. Now, would it have been him to make a play? It was Mooney Ward that Romo just showed being put in a bad spot. But I just can't help but think. I thought that was you know what? I thought that was the time to call a timeout. You had 2 timeouts. It's first and goal. And Kelsey just picked up the first down. I think you call a timeout right there. Let your guys breathe. For the same reason I think it was okay to take the ball first in the second half. I think you got to let your guys breathe right there. That would be if there's another Shanahan second guess stuff. LOL, you just said Bosa should have been better. Well, I said there was a play that he did the wrong thing, and it was one of the plays that cost him. So I don't know why. I don't know what's ridiculous about that. Get to a few more of your super chats here. Brandon Staley, New Niners DC, LOL. You know, you get them away from fourth down situations. Tucker, super chat, was looking forward to guys' reaction to Jennings for MVP. God, I know. So was I. I was too, Tucker. I thought we had it. I thought we had a Juwan Jennings, Super Bowl MVP. Benny. His dad named him Benny. His little brother said, we're not naming him Benny. I want to name him Juwan. So his mom named him, okay, Juwan. We're going to spell it differently. I thought we had a Juwan Jennings MVP. I felt really good. For those of you, I did a live halftime stream instead of watching the halftime show. And I felt pretty good at that point. Though I said, you can't, there's only so many chances you can miss and give to Mahomes. So much of the talk in the week leading up to the Super Bowl was just, I love this team, except do you want to bet against Mahomes? And somebody said to me today, they're like, I think it's kind of lazy analysis to say, well, it could just be Mahomes that beat you. Well, no, it's not. I think that I hate to be right about that, but that's like the one thing I was right about pregame. Devin says, we won't win a Super Bowl with Shanahan. I disagree. I think he's capable. Sean says, can we stop calling Kyle an offensive genius? I don't think we will, and that's fine. But he missed his chance. He missed his chance tonight. Gabriel says, third Super Bowl loss in a row where the Niners were the better team. Championship windows close early, and Kyle has wasted this one. Well, the Niners looked better in the first half. Ultimately, they had a better collection of offensive talent. But not every player is worth just one player, right? Mahomes is worth more than one. And they got Mahomes, and you don't. And the last time the 49ers lost like this, they were ultimately inspired to go for broke and take a swing for the fences and draft Trey Lance. They're not going to do that now, but there's no question you need the quarterback. You need Purdy, even though I thought it was solid today. You need him to continue to evolve. I mean, there was the play that he called the timeout on because he didn't like the protection, but Romo thought he should not have called the timeout and changed the protection because he had a matchup at the bottom with McCaffrey that he should have liked. So, I thought today his athleticism, his arm held up fine in the game. You're not going to go toe-to-toe and match him in those regards with Mahomes. But I thought against a really good defense, right? And we talked about it, like Purdy had not been great against the best defenses they faced, like Cleveland and Baltimore. And I thought he was good. I thought he was good in this game against a really good defense. Good enough. Super chat from Jonas. One problem is not enough runs in the third quarter. The egregious problem is to go empty a lot. Yeah, like I said, I addressed that a minute ago, but did not love the empty second down play. Why do you think Kyle chose to not run the ball? I need help understanding this. I think I didn't listen. I haven't heard his post game yet. He spoke while we were doing this, so I'll go back and watch that tonight and talk about it tomorrow. But I don't think that was his intent. I think simply a couple of play calls on first down where he decided to throw the football that went sideways, and then one penalty on one and a backwards play on another put him in a position to not run in the third quarter. I don't think, my guess is he said that was not his intent, and then situations kind of put him in that spot. But this is a good point. When your D is playing well and the opponent is gassed and had zero D line depth, you just keep running over and over and over. Yeah, I mean, that's, it's not an excuse for Kyle. He puts himself in that spot. He put them in that spot by not running on those first downs. The one that kills me, and maybe he thought, quick change. I'm going to take a shot after the interception, right? Teams do that. But I don't know, you're up 10-3. That's not really your MO. You don't do that. You're at the 44. Expect pressure and run the football. Super chat. Kyle thinks he's too much of a genius trying to outsmart everyone when just pound with brute force can solve it. I don't totally agree with that just because Shanahan often does just pound the ball with brute force, but he went to it too late in this game. Tobin said he put 5 on Jennings for MVP. What were the odds on our boy Benny for MVP? Damn, I hate Mahomes, he says. Somebody tell me, what were the odds on Jennings for MVP? Because that would have been. God, that would have been sweet. This is now 2 Super Bowls that have gone to overtime. The last one being Falcons Patriots. And both of them, I was talking to David Lombardi and his wife Margot about this a couple days ago. And I texted him today because his wife Margot was like, I think we had an overtime. Have we had an overtime before in the Super Bowl? It's like, yeah. And Lombardi and I were both like, and that one was anticlimactic at the end. Just the way that the Patriots scored to win that game, kind of a wide open run. It wasn't a dramatic play. Just the second the play happened, it was a touchdown. Although that one actually was kind of close. I take it back. That one was it was not an obvious touchdown. We had to wait for a second. And this one was similar. It was such a just a brutal last play. I mean, to lose is to lose, but to lose on a walk-in touchdown when you just get completely tricked is somehow, I don't know, it feels like it makes it worse. If your guy is there, DB on his back, Mahomes slings it in. If you hand the ball off and some dude breaks a couple tackles, but to have a walk-in totally fooled, never had a chance. I mean, now that I say it out loud, you really think about it. There are 3 big plays in the game. The 2 3rd and 4s that I've hammered and the touchdown where it was a complete coaching play. I mean, pick any 2 football players you've watched in your life and they score a touchdown on that last play that the Chiefs called, right? I mean, JT O'Sullivan to Joe Williams. That's a touchdown. That's bad. That's just really bad. Anybody scores on that play. God, the more I think about that play, the more I hate that play. Everybody wins it. So the point being, like, that's just a complete outsmart. Sometimes you got to roll a hard 6. Thanks for the amazing content. Sports psychologist interview was a top 10 spot. Thank you. I'm glad you appreciated that. That was Dr. Michael Gervais. If you missed that earlier in the week from Vegas, I was in Vegas. For those of you, I was in Vegas this week. Khalil, we've lost 3 Super Bowls in 10 years. Jets 49ers are losers, period. Strong disagree from me on that. Losing in the Super Bowl makes you a Super Bowl loser, but does not make you a loser. What the Niners were between Harbaugh and Shanahan, the Tom Sula era, the Chip Kelly era, before that, the Singletary era, they were losers. 3 Super Bowl losses, you lost Super Bowls, doesn't make you a loser franchise. We'll chalk that up to a Super Bowl emotion night. But that's a very strong disagree from me, and we can argue all offseason about that. You just don't know what chances you're going to have. But I think they're around the ball a lot, just like life. You got to be around the ball. You got to deal with failure. You got to bounce back from failure. It's you hope that one day you do win it and all the failure makes it even sweeter. You're going to have to beat Mahomes or Burrow or Herbert or, and Harbaugh. Or it's going to be really freaking tough. And this year it felt like the NFC opened its doors to you. Maybe the Jordan Love and the Packers will be better next year. Maybe the Lions will come back even better, even though, as you know, I believe they're capped. Maybe the Rams will come back better, even though Stafford's aging. Maybe Caleb Williams is going to end up at the NFC, and maybe they'll be solid. But they're not. They're not losers. Those guys have played their ass off. They've got a top 5 coach who got beaten some bad spots today, and they lost the Super Bowl again. And the franchise that was known for winning Super Bowls, the gold standard, won 5. If you're a Niner fan who, wasn't 10 years old in 94, or you weren't around in the 80s, then all you know is heartbreak and losing in big spots. And it's kind of wild, really, that the Shanahan era and the Harbaugh era feel so similar right now. So similar. Watching Harbaugh lose in NFC Championship game and Super Bowl, I did feel like I felt like his teams were never going to be buttoned down enough to win a Super Bowl. Now, Jim ultimately won a national championship at Michigan, and I do think that kind of proved me wrong. I didn't think Jim would win a championship at Michigan. I just thought his teams would not in the biggest moments step up. So here's Kyle Shanahan here wearing a similar weight on his back. Are his teams ever going to really get over the top? Does he have teams good enough to win championships? Yes, so did Jim. Jim didn't do it, not until college. Now he's back in the NFL. Does Shanahan have teams good enough to win Super Bowls? Yeah. I mean, if these two teams played 10 times, Kansas City's got Mahomes, you'd have to give him the edge, maybe 6 out of the 10. But I said earlier in the week, I disagreed with Ross Tucker, who said he thought this was a 7 out of 10 Chiefs team over this Niner team. Strongly disagree. Only feel more strongly about that in the end. You can't say this was just about Mahomes, though. Don't get me wrong. It's not just about Mahomes. I think Spagnuolo deserves it. They all do. I mean, you win this thing, a bunch of people win it, but Mahomes and Spagnuolo, that's who won the Chiefs the Super Bowl. But I do think Kyle Shanahan's capable of it. I don't know if he ever will. He may never, and then I'll be wrong, right? But the guys who are around the ball this much, I don't know what the percentages are on how much they win. Most teams don't win, but I still believe in Kyle Shanahan, despite the fact that I've told you 2 decisions, specific play calls he made against the other coach. The other coach beat him today. So he's deserves the criticism, but I'm not looking at this. I don't think this team is a group of losers. I don't think they're losers. Super chat from Evan, who says Steve Wilkes struggled a lot in the back half of the season, including the playoffs. Does Kyle Shanahan replace him? I think he does. I think Kyle was mad about the blitz at the end of regulation. Sorry, I think he was mad about the blitz in the overtime, and then he called the timeout to call a defensive play. I'm sure he's done it. It's pretty alarming when you see the offensive coach telling the defensive coordinator what to do with that level of frustration and emotion. So my prediction right now is that he will replace him. Yeah. Super chat from Joshua. Kyle did it twice when he kicked the field goal. He gave the Chiefs 4 downs on every try. They would have been better off turning it over. The moment he elected to kick, he should have lost in regulation. You're saying on 4th and 4, Joshua, on 4th and 4 in regulation, he should have gone for it instead of kicking the 53-yarder that Moody made, by the way. I'm not saying that at Josh. I'm just saying, wow, Moody. You could argue, and I did not feel this way at the time, so this is a little revisionist history from me, but you could argue both 3rd and 4s, play them like 4-down territory, run the football. Instead of putting yourself in a position where you are. Now, Brock's been good against the blitz. It's crazy. When Kansas City blitzed, it just felt like they got home like that. Like they got home so fast with the blitz. The Niners blitz, and it was The Niners blitz is just the least blitzy blitz that it's crazy how little they get home on the a little, at least it feels like they get home on the blitz. Kansas City blitz, and they'd be on Purdy, they'd be at Purdy's knees in a millisecond. The Niners blitz, and it takes 4.5 seconds for the shit to unfold. It's crazy. So you could argue both spots. Again, I'm doing this revisionist history. Maybe you said at the time, definitely felt dicey kicking it with Moody, but he made it. But if you want to argue both spots, treat it like 4-down territory. You got to go win it the same way. Now, he did it with the juice play. He did it with I'm sorry, not the juice play, the Kittle play. What was that? The 4th down that Jennings scored on. Jennings eventually scored the touchdown. He went for it 4th and 3, threw the ball there. So you could argue. I was not going to make this case, but now that you guys are making this case, you could argue if you're going for it on 4th and 3 there, now you're down at that point, a little bit of a different spot, that you should treat those other 3rd down spots like 4-down territory. I mean, if you're going to kick it with Moody, you could say, well, 4th down, it's a tie game. You don't get it. You're giving Mahomes the ball, near midfield. But if you miss the field goal, you're doing the same thing. You could argue that. You could. I still am okay. I just thought both play calls are terrible. Or you lost, right? You prepare all this time for this 3rd and 4, and you lost on both those plays. And those 2 plays, you just make one of them. Just make one of them, and you win the Super Bowl. So ultimately, Joshua, I'm not going to agree with you on this. I think it is a legitimate point, though. But I'm okay. You take one field goal, you got another 3rd and 4. Win the game. Just don't have a play that kind of works. Travis said, we got another one weighing in here. Another person weighing in on taking the ball first in OT, bad decision. Yeah, like I told you, your defense was so gassed. The Niners defense was gassed. I've seen coaches in college do that where you think, like, what are they doing? In college, it's even kind of crazier to do it. Thanks for the super chat, Griffin. Stuart, super chat. No point in being a fan of this team. I would make suggestions for the offseason, but we all know how it will end. Shanny will SB with other team. I don't know what that last part means, but I don't see any I guess I'm not going to talk you out of it tonight. But you're still going to have a really talented team coming back next year. And maybe your quarterback, who was one of the best offensive players in the NFL this year, maybe your running back, who's one of the best offensive players in the league this year, and maybe they'll be just as good. Maybe the quarterback will be better. I don't know. I can't say anything to that makes you feel any better. Matthew, super chat. Kyle should be fired, not because he isn't good. He is a good coach. Not because he can win. He can. But there are mistakes you just can't make. And having McCaffrey having 15 rushes at the end of the 4th quarter is unforgivable. Matthew, Kyle Shanahan should not be fired. Period. Not just because you have to find a way to upgrade. You're going to go hire Belichick. Bill coming to be the 49ers defensive coordinator people are going to say that on Monday, by the way, that the Niners should go pay Bill Belichick $20 million to be their defensive coordinator. I would be all for it. Maybe there's something there. I mean, he called and gave them Garoppolo. Maybe you likes him. Does he want to do that? Doesn't feel like Belichick style. But, in the same way you called about Brady, I think you got to call Bill and ask him if he'll come be your defense. I know it sounds insane, but you got to do it. You got to call Belichick and see if he'll come be your DC. You're not firing Kyle Shanahan. But I'm not going to hold that against anybody on Sunday night after they lost the Super Bowl. Roberto, super chat. Truth is, we took Mahomes and Reed to overtime. Mahomes is a generational quarterback. We will be back. Need to fix the offensive line. McKivitz is trash. You do need to be better on the offensive line. You've got this quarterback who now's the time you got to protect them. So can you spend money on the offensive line? Can you draft on the offensive line? When Burford had to come into the game at right guard and Romo goes, well, it's fine. They've basically been running a rotation at right guard anyway. It's like, yeah, I know they have. And that's crazy. For 2 years, they've been rotating right guards. That's insane. I mean, that's unheard of. It's really unheard of on good teams. That's just wild. I'm going to go through here, and I think Middlekauff is going to hop in a second. I'm just going to clear out some of these. So many of your super chats. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it very much. Again, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on the podcast, appreciate that. You can watch this show by clicking on the YouTube link in the description. You can also leave a review, 5 stars. I'm just going through these super chats. Hopefully, I'm getting to all of them on Apple, iTunes, and yeah, I'm trying not to miss them. All right, it is Sunday night, and as we continue on, here he is, ladies and gentlemen, John Middlekauff. Johnny boy, what's up, man? Good to see you.
I lost an astronomical amount of money over the last 5 days. If you include that game, that was it was a double kick in the dick. You want the Niners to win. You want them to win by 2.5, and you're like, God, they're going to get a stop, and then they just don't.
Yeah,
they just do not.
How much are we talking? How many units?
Today was pretty large. Everyone was betting on the Chiefs.
Yeah,
this is just. Niners are winning this game. And they're outplaying them. They're outplaying them. But you can't have a one-shot lead against Tiger Woods on the back nine of a major. You can't have be up 2 points against Steph or Michael. I thought the game was almost defined by just not having a cushion the way you were playing.
Yeah.
If you would have been up 14, maybe you only win by 3 points and they kind of storm back, but they never were able to get that. That fumble, at first I wanted to kill Ray, and it obviously wasn't his fault, but he actually made the right play, right? Diving on the ball.
Well, he didn't dive. He tried to scoop. But yeah.
But he's in a weird spot. He's trying to back up. It's not his. It's really no one's fault. I mean, it's a freak deal. But holy. Mahomes won the MVP?
I assume so. He threw for 333 yards. How about Nance at the end? He's like 333. Did you hear Nance's line at the end?
No.
333 yards for Mahomes, and that's significant because Allegiant Stadium sits at 33-33 Al Davis Way. You got a little bit of a stretch there, Jimbo. I thought Nance and Romo were really good. Let me give you a couple of my headlines, John, and you can react to. And you tell me a couple, I want to know why they lost the game from your perspective. But you just said kind of something similar that I said on this stream when I started, which is this is what it must have been like to be the Jazz of the 90s, right? Or the Rockets. Now, the Rockets eventually won after Michael went away.
Does this one sting worse than last one?
I mean, I guess it stings worse because you already had lost it once and you got your way back. So maybe in that sense, you were playing. It felt like in both games there were points where you looked like the better team. But they were a better team in the last one, right? This Chiefs team was there to be beat more so than the last Chiefs team. Now,
their defense is pretty damn good.
This defense is pretty good. Well, let me tell you with that in mind, I thought 2 plays defined this game. Like right now in the moment, 2 plays define the game. Kyle got beat by Steve Spagnuolo on 2 of the biggest plays of the game. He got beat by him on 3rd and 4, down on the goal line on the first possession of overtime, right? Where Purdy has to throw the ball away, just kind of lofts it up to Jennings. And I sent the play.
Jennings was open, right?
Jennings was open. Go look at the play again. Ayuk is WAO, wide, ass open in the back of the
In
end
middle,
zone.
yeah.
But Chris Jones is unblocked. Chris Jones is unblocked. You have lost the play if Chris Jones is unblocked. And I said it to our boy Jeff Schwartz, and he goes, you know what? At first, he's like, McKivitz should have, the tackle's got to take him. But then he's like, I looked at it again. Somebody was going to come unblocked on that play. So it sucks, John, when you have a play that doesn't even have a chance. So there's a 3rd and 4. Spagnuolo just beat Kyle. The other 3rd and 4, do you remember the other one? It was at the 2-minute warning. 2-minute warning. 3rd down and 4. They bring the blitz. Again, Purdy's got nothing. Like, the blitz is on him in a heartbeat. There's nothing he can do. And they eventually settle for the
Is that when McDuffie tipped it?
And then Moody kicks the 53-yarder.
McDuffie was everywhere.
McDuffie's excellent. So to me, like, I know there's going to be all these big Shanahan takes the offseason, whatever. He got beat by Spagnuolo on the 2 3rd and 4s. And actually one other play comes to mind. After they get the interception to start the second half, they're at the 44-yard line, and Leo Chenal comes on a blitz. And the Chiefs blitz gets to Purdy in like half a second. The Niners blitz takes 8 minutes to get to Mahomes.
Get to him. They
not get to him.
They never get to him.
Yeah, not get to him. It takes 8 seconds to not get to him. But, that's where like people like, did Kyle abandon the run? I'm like, well, that was a first down play where you in hindsight, you got to figure at the time, Spagnuolo's going to bring the heat, and he does. And you don't run the ball, and you just put yourself behind the 8 ball. So I thought those 2 3rd and 4s, you pick up just one of those, the one under the 2-minute warning or the one on the goal line, and you probably win the Super Bowl. And it'd be one thing if Purdy just didn't make a throw, or somebody dropped the ball, or you check it down to Kittle and he gets tackled. But you had 2 plays that were dead on arrival, DOA, and you got beat on those 2 plays and just won one of them.
They didn't have many of those, felt like, in the second half. They did not. Yeah, they did not have many DOA plays for the most part. I mean, they fucked up a couple times, but not on the level in which the play was just fucked by Mahomes.
Yeah.
In terms of like, there's nothing for him to do. A
Fubar.
lot of Purdy's. Yeah, I thought that 1 to 5. Listen, I have no problem with taking the ball first, because like, if they score a touchdown, then you feel the weight of the world on Purdy. I was like, I kind of understood that. Think about this. Honestly, one of the biggest, Purdy was good. The other guy was fucking incredible when it mattered the most. And you're playing Tom Brady 2.0. I think you text me that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you're doing. So
I texted you that when they were up.
You get in the moment in overtime, and Andy Reid, there are moments in the game where Andy's sitting with Patrick when they were struggling. Why? Because he basically has, do you know what the Chiefs do have? Andy Reid is the head coach of the team, and obviously the offensive play caller, but they do have a head coach of the defense that he does not fuck with at all. The 49ers do not. They have a defensive coordinator that Kyle overruled in the Super Bowl in overtime. And honestly, it probably was the right choice. But maybe the play would have worked, who knows? He doesn't trust him because he had just got beat by that play, which they had multiple big beaters I think it was both in overtime, the one to Rice, I think another one to Kelsey. They definitely had another one to Kelsey in the fourth quarter that, like, Andy just knew the exact, like, that was the highest level of Mahomes and Andy. Like, they've had sexier plays. Today was just like the Brady Belichick in a tight game. It's not going to be as sexy, but when the fucking confetti falls, it falls on you. Just like you make the winning plays, the right calls, the right moments. And Kyle didn't trust his defensive coordinator. Period, point blank, end of story. Now, maybe the play would have worked, maybe not, but like he didn't trust it. And that's pretty crazy micromanaging in the Super Bowl. Borderline unheard of, I would say.
Yeah,
borderline unheard of.
And
I'm not saying it's the wrong call. I don't pretend to know what the play call would have been. Clearly was going to blitz again, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is where
his defensive line had to be gassed.
Which is another reason why I had no problem with him taking the ball to start the overtime, by the way, because his defense was gassed at the end of regulation.
And so were they, right?
I wish he'd taken a timeout before the first down play that won them the game. You know, he had 2 times. He could have used, I thought he should have used a timeout in the red zone at the end of the game, at the end of the overtime, Shanahan, on defense.
Yeah. He likes keeping timeouts with him.
Yeah, he's for no reason. I mean, it's just, the first, how about when Romo's like, by the way, folks, this is just the first, think of it as the first quarter of overtime. I'm like, I don't know how much longer I can do this, but I do need to stop here.
When he said that and they said it going into the overtime, Maria's like, wait, they play an entire another game. I'm like, no, he's just explaining it wrong.
Yeah, I mean, how about these
What are
two
you
teams?
talking about, Tony? There's not an extra game going on. If you want to use a timeout, use a timeout. This is not the first quarter.
I
You
know.
can use a fucking timeout. This drive is for the game, Tony. There's not 3 more quarters coming.
But I thought it was interesting that, well, anyway, let me finish that point. So I would have used the timeout there, but I think
to
that
me the defining plays were those overtime defensive play calls. Because at the end of the day, you score on that drive. I know it sucks, and the Chris Jones play, but you did get 3 points. And if anyone had them minus 2.5, you're like, just get a stop. The defense has been awesome. This was not like some 45-42 game.
yeah, I mean, they had been awesome most of the game, but Kansas City scored on its last 3 drives. They went field goal, touchdown. So they had
For a
worn the
field
Niners
goal,
defense.
you'd be in pretty good shape.
No, I know, but I just know that you had 2
How many
third and
touchdowns
fours.
did Purdy? 2? I guess 3 at the end.
3, but you just had 2 third and fours where you just one of them. So I think it was more about those plays. But what this is where what I was going to say to your point on Shanahan and the defensive coordinator. You're so right, because Kyle had to babysit basically in his mind, his DC. And this is where Romo being really good today was really good for everybody to understand what was happening. He hated the blitz on the Rashee Rice play. So then what he said was, it's cover 0. Good job by Kyle to call a timeout. You can't run that again. So I don't think Steve Wilkes will be back. That moment in the Super Bowl is a pretty strong indication that he's probably not coming back.
They were I would say 80% of it, his defense was pretty elite, wouldn't you say, relative to what it's been?
I know it was.
If you're a betting man right now, you think Steve Wilkes is relieved of his duties?
Your coach had to overrule him on the biggest drive of the game in the Super Bowl. I don't think he's back.
And he had to tell him to come down throughout the season. Like, there have been some moments that were pretty weird. If this was college football, it'd be a lock. He'd be back or not.
I know it. Right? I know it sounds insane.
NFL, it's a little weird. Super Bowl 1 year.
I know. I don't want to be like dumbass suggestion on Twitter, John, but you got to at least call. Kyle will call Belichick and check.
Well, yeah. Well, you have to. The problem is, my issue with putting it all on Steve on that play is, it's not like your zone defense was working. He's just trying to mix it up a little bit. The other guy's blitzing nonstop. How's the other guy blitzing nonstop? No problem. And getting home and peppering the quarterback. And these guys blitz and no one even gets close. Is it because Patrick knows the exact right? Is this because his groups played together longer? They have new offensive linemen. It parted like the Red Sea on some of their blitzes. If the Niners ever were to blitz the equivalent of their McDuffie, it would be a fucking touchdown. At minimum 30, 40 yards. So, yeah, I mean, schematically, listen, no one's going to argue. If I told you tomorrow it's an Adam Schefter, Steve Wilkes, they told just, listen, you don't even need to come, you're done. No Niner fan's going to complain. It would be pretty like, Jesus. He'd basically, because I thought he was good. Now, he was pretty atrocious the last couple weeks. And if you can't trust him, ultimately, if you can't trust a player or a coach in that moment, because that's all he's coaching for right now. He's not coaching for the money anymore. He doesn't give a fuck about the win percentage in the regular season. He is that guy right now in the NFL more than anyone else. Honestly, there's no one even, he's in his own little category. He's like Phil Mickelson 03 or Charles Barkley was for a long time. He's just in this rare category. Like Kevin Durant would have been his entire career if he hadn't come to Golden State. Is this guy ever going to win a championship?
You're talking about Kyle.
I'm talking about Kyle. So
yeah,
he might.
I like the Phil comp.
I would imagine. Yeah, you kind of convinced me. I bet he's fired this week. Because if you can't trust him in that spot, what's the point?
And I don't know that you or I can't trust him. I just know Kyle doesn't. And Kyle was furious when he called the timeout too. It wasn't like Kyle was like, "Hey, let's talk about this." Kyle thought it was idiotic, right?
Well, but here's what I don't understand.
And in Wilkes' defense, he's going up against Patrick Mahomes. But what?
But they've been calling. They were calling the zone defenses, and they were getting easy completions. So he tries to mix up a coverage. And even Tony was like, "You can't just go soft zone on these guys. They're going to work their way right down the field." I don't know. They kind of know what they're doing. So you do have to throw a different pitch. What happens when you throw your different pitch? The problem is he's thrown that pitch a couple times throughout the season, and it's gone into the stands. And clearly Kyle is not comfortable with that pitch, right? And whenever he does it and it doesn't work, Kyle kind of throws a hissy fit. He does not. So you're basically saying, and I think this is true, that Kyle is cool with them just playing the soft zone defense and letting them kind of go and hopefully to get some, maybe a guy trips or you make a big tackle over putting it all on black and having it show up red.
It feels like it's an automatic first down, or at least it was for them late in the game.
Because they run those crossing routes and he did it multiple times.
What did you think when they lined up?
He did make some great play calls. That little thing to Kelsey with like both, it's just, you're playing. I mean, you're talking about a guy that, his resume.
I know.
Belichick could never win without Tom. This guy is going to go. I mean, is he like Lombardi, Walsh, Belichick, Andy Reid? I mean, this guy's like one of the great coaches of all time who's also calling the plays with this quarterback who, if it just disappeared tomorrow, like, is he a top 2 or 3 quarterback of all time right now? I mean, that's who you're playing. It is easier. It sucks. I'm not saying this really sucks. Trust me. But you are not losing to Nick Foles. You are not losing to Rando. You're not losing to Jared Goff and Dan Campbell. This sucks. But I do think, like Steve Wilkes, like, I thought his defense was fucking good most of the game.
I don't think he
felt good about them.
All I know,
I don't disagree with you. I think he's getting fired. You convinced me. I think he's done.
Okay. What did you think when the Chiefs lined up in the shotgun on 4th and 1 in overtime? Niners get a stop. They win the Super Bowl, and Mahomes pulls it with.
I could barely watch.
Bosa
in a weird way.
I
had just like, this is destiny. He's gonna, maybe someone will kind of smoke the guard and he'll overthrow a guy. I didn't expect that play call. It hit me off guard, so I'm not pretending to be like some defensive genius. I didn't know it was coming. Did you think he was going to do like a zone read keeper?
No, but I'm with you. I felt strangely when I saw them line up in the shotgun. I was like, oh yeah, that's what you want if you're the Niners. Them on 4th and 1 with, and then the only play that you could have told me is a guaranteed first down is the play they ran. And Bosa, it was the second time they did it to Bosa. Bosa comes crashing down the line, and Mahomes runs right by him.
Purdy was, I thought, damn good tonight relative to even what I was expecting. Some of those plays on that overtime drive were fantastic. It is pretty telling, though, when your franchise, if the 49ers could have sent anyone out for the coin flip, it would have been Kyle versus Mahomes. They said the heart and soul, and Romo said this, like, yeah, Fred was telling us he's not just the heart and soul of the defense. He knows the team relies on him, which is awesome. I love Fred was fucking flying around today. He was making plays left and right. But when the heart and soul of your team at the highest level in this sport, that's the guy you send out, like, you are going to be at a disadvantage. When they're sending out, like, the Ravens back in the day would have sent out Ray Lewis. Well, if the other guy's Peyton or Tom, like, that team just has the slight advantage in that moment, right? You would always take – it's a no-brainer for every team with an all-time great quarterback. And maybe Purdy goes on to have some – you can't send Purdy out in that spot. I'm not disputing who he sent out. I thought that was very representative of, like, they're sending their great linebacker, and they're sending – it's no-brainer. It's not a fuck-around time. Not 7 guys are walking out there. You look, Patrick, go. And Kyle looks, Fred, you go. I mean, because that's team captain, leader of the group, the guy leading you. With neither coach probably hesitated. Mahomes, maybe Andy didn't even need to look at him. He starts walking. Fred, both of them. They don't even need to be told. Go. And then when the game ended, what? And Fred fucking played corner on Travis Kelce on the one play. It was incredible. I mean, Greenlaw tears his Achilles, which was pretty clear right away. It's like, oh my, how could this happen? I felt awful. I mean, that sucked. I kept thinking how shitty it's going to be for him once they win the Super Bowl and he's celebrating, which is cool, but it can't be as like you're like, this sucks. And he was so good early. But I thought that was very representative of, like, who would the Patriots send out, right? Who would the Peyton Manning teams send out? It's like, of course the Niners had Fred Warner. Like, that's not Trent's really deal, right? It's Fred. I guess they could have said Nick, but, Fred's the guy. The other thing is, listen,
Christian doesn't do that stuff for him.
It's not really his thing. No. Where was George Kittle today? This is...
Well, he caught the big 4th down. I mean,
he did. No, but I just mean over the course of the game, he can't get some big plays on, like, 3rd and 5. Their corners are excellent. Their physicality on defense is elite. they clearly, Debo's not Mr. Marvin Harrison running routes. And Ayuk made some plays throughout the game when he got him on safeties. But it's hard. Their corners are up in your ass. The 49ers were relying, and he's a very dependable, awesome player, on their third receiver throughout the game. Where when push came to shove, the Chiefs relied on Kelsey and they relied on Rice, who right now is their number one receiver. That's where the one thing that this game ages better, because this was the team to get, that Chiefs defense, and you and I were with a guy on the Chiefs. He's like, on Thursday night, he's like, by this defense, the group we have, it's not even remotely close of this era, which is now one of the great little 6-year stretches in NFL history, right?
Mm-hmm.
6 AFC championship games, 3 Super Bowls. They lost another. Kyle's having one of the great winless Super Bowl streaks.
One of the great Marv Levy streaks, yeah.
And you just start, like, when he scored wide open and you realize Chiefs won, you just kind of cross your mind, like, is this ever going to happen for him?
I know.
At least Andy only got to the 1 in Philly. He lost a lot the game before. You get to this game, and let's face it, most Super Bowls are kind of tight back and forth, and you lose. How does Kyle sleep this week?
And I don't think he does. Now, this feels like something for another time.
The other game you lost by, what was the final score? 31-20 or whatever.
Yeah, they eventually
scored 21
put you away. Yeah,
you lose in overtime where you score in overtime. I think this is way worse. I think the overtime adds an element, a pitch, a variable that the other game can't bring to the table.
Especially when you get the ball first and kick the field goal. Go watch. I mean, I tweeted it. Go watch that play again too. The 3rd and 4 is just Ayuk is so open.
Jennings was open.
Jennings was. They're both open. What was I going to say to you? Oh, look, they are going to. Most of their talent's back next year, but Greenlaw. You're not going to see Greenlaw till November, probably, right? Who knows what kind of player?
It's safe to say he might. You never know with that injury.
No, but
there's going to be a key player from this team. Bosa's good. Trent's good. Christian's good. Fred's good. Locks to be back, and Purdy, right? I think there could be a variable of a Debo, a Kittle, an Eric Armstead. Like, to me, there's a group where one of them is just not back at the money in which they're making. They're just it. That's the way the NFL.
You say they have to get better up front, right, on the offensive line.
Part
of your thing now is we got to play Chris Jones. How do we stop Chris Jones in the Super Bowl? Now, maybe who knows what happens, but just that version of player.
The Ravens defensive line. All these teams have good defensive lines.
How do we stop that guy? Cost us in some ways. You could argue the Super Bowl. He just made a play.
I feel like he was making several.
He made a bunch of plays. How about the fake screen to Debo that turned into the pitch play to McCaffrey? It was early in the overtime.
Do you think that was supposed to go to Debo and got cut off, and so he just flipped it to McCaffrey, or it was supposed to go to McCaffrey like Andy Reid style?
I think it was by design. I do think it was by design. And I thought Romo was good on that. Romo said Chris Jones was so tired, he was just in the right place because he didn't move.
That's Greg Papa. He doesn't even try. It's like, well, Greg, I've seen him now 6 years in big games. Listen, I don't remember every snap of Reggie White either, but this guy's fucking. When the Hall of Fame comes around, he ain't waiting that long. How many defensive tackles this good was like? He's an elite player. That'd be my pushback to what you were just saying.
Yeah.
Unless you got like Jason Kelsey or Larry Allen, like most guards are not blocking this guy. He's 6'5". He can move. He's just an all-time great player.
I'd like to end the rotation at right guard after 2 years if we could, John. If I'm the Niners, that would be one.
They technically did with Feliciano.
When Feliciano got hurt. It's one thing on the to-do list, I would say, John. Let's stop platooning right guards. So to your point, like maybe you sacrifice one thing to get better at that spot. But one thing we knew going in is both teams were going to play. There was going to be a bunch of mistakes, a bunch of errors.
There were more than I thought with some of the fumbles and The McCaffrey
fumble.
The game is so much happened after. It felt like they were scoring a touchdown on that drive, didn't it?
They were 9 yards per play after their first 2 drives in this game.
They were moving the ball.
They had picked up 3 first downs in their first 5 plays of the game.
I think that McCaffrey turnover was just such a kick in the dick. I think that pick by Jair Brown that led to basically just a couple plays later a punt was a hard thing to stomach. I think when he picked it off, I felt they were closer, and then you realize, well, they're not quite even in field goal range, and then they went back. They had some moments today where they got, I think most people are probably pretty critical of that stretch of Kyle in the second half.
The third quarter,
pass.
Yeah.
I do think there were moments, though, where he was running and all of a sudden it'd be 2nd and 9 and no coach that, doesn't, the way he plays, hates 2nd and 9, 3rd and long. Like, honestly, the Chiefs are pretty comfortable. When you have a star quarterback that you just are used to passing, Kyle's offense relies on like play action to pass. The other thing, if I wanted to be critical of Kyle, I've said this forever. Now, granted, this just is not offensive plays that he runs. One of your quarterback's best attributes is his legs and mobility. Why don't you move him out more on the play action roll? Like, you know how Mahomes, they just roll him out, or Josh Allen roll him out? When Purdy rolls out, when shit hits the fan, what usually happens? A fucking play. He's a very instinctive player on the move because he's a good athlete, but he's not really looking to run like a Mahomes or back in the day with Russell Wilson, and he makes great plays down the field. He does it constantly. Kyle's like, yeah, that's not in our offense. That's not the Shanahan way. It's like, well, fucking Kyle, add the goddamn play. Add the play. Especially when their best player is right over your guard and center. Get him on the fucking move. Especially when you have these great athletes all over the field. But he never, ever just like shotgun gets him moving. Maybe, use check or Kyle or Kittle to chip the end. And just like let him run and then stop and kind of survey. Why? He's a little shorter. Easier for him to see. Kyle's like, nope. Just going to play him in the pocket. Which, when it's working great, but when it doesn't work, it feels very kind of out of whack. When their passing game's out of whack, it feels really bad. And there were moments today where you're like, God, I've seen this song and dance. And what do the Chiefs want to do? Like they've done all season when they've won. Keep the game kind of muddy and grimy and just in the teens. That's not how the Niners play. Niners win their games 31-20, 35-23. 38 to fucking 17. That's how they're comfortable, kind of running and gunning. The Chiefs, they had to feel, obviously there were moments where it's just the Super Bowl, but like they're comfortable in this weird game. The Niners, it was hard to get comfortable. I was never comfortable. And every time I wanted to be comfortable, it was hard to be comfortable.
I know. Well, I felt like early, like, oh man, the dam's going to break. You keep running the offense this effectively, you're going to score 17 points you're going to score touchdowns here pretty soon. And then you get to the second half, you go, well, you missed all these opportunities. They're going to get the ball first. And then Mahomes gives you a gift. Like the Mahomes pick was a rare, really bad decision and throw by Patrick. It wasn't like some defense jump, some crazy play.
He forced it.
He really did. And it was bad. I at first I thought he was trying to go to the second receiver, but maybe he was just trying to get it to Kittle and overthrow him. I don't know what he was doing. But it was a really bad decision, and he gifted it to you. I think you're saying what I'm saying, which is I don't think Kyle tried to abandon the run in the third quarter. He just didn't run it on first down. Then he'd get a penalty or a loss of yards, and then he's 2nd and 15. He got a penalty in the first after the interception. He gets a penalty on Banks, and he's in a 2nd and 15, and it's 2nd and 18. Like
it's hard to play good defenses in 2nd and 3rd and long.
Yeah,
and that to me that number starts at like 8. It doesn't even have to be 3rd and 15, which they were in countless times. But you're in 3rd and 8, 2nd and 9. That's an uncomfortable down against a really good defense who will blitz and has good DBs. What do the Chiefs have that I think they do better than everybody in the league? Even better than the Ravens? Open field tackle. They all tackle like Richard Sherman or Hufanga.
They did. You're right.
So what are the Niners used to? They break a lot of tackles. What do they not really do today? Besides a couple Jennings, which he was fucking playing at. They depend sometimes on Debo, I don't know, taking a slant, maybe breaking a tackle, making it from 8 yards to like 18. It just kind of, the dam opens, and it never really happened. Even Ayuk, when someone's big, he would get tackled. They're a great tackling team. If I would have told you the Niners had multiple turnovers and scored 19 points in regulation, what would you have said?
Lose by 14, 17.
Yeah.
40
30-19 or something.
Yeah.
I
And then
think
if you
speaks that they struggled to score. And the Niners defense was good. I mean, their defensive line, Chase Young clearly was playing out of his ass. Eric Armstead was awesome. Bosa was a man amongst boys, the way he was chasing around. Can't even imagine how the physical fitness of that guy. I mean, in the second half, chasing that guy, weak,
he was
whatever.
close a lot.
He hit him a lot. He hit him a lot.
He got close a lot.
I thought he was really – that has to be one of the best games he's played this year, doesn't it? Just feeling his presence. Yeah.
Yeah, other than they tricked him twice on the Mahomes keepers, and you think about the Lions game, like
it's hard.
What was the difference in that game though? It was Purdy making plays with his legs. I mean, today Mahomes.
That is the play though, right? I mean, when the defensive guy goes, you keep. When he doesn't, you give.
Felt like he was keeping the whole way.
It did because they probably knew he was going to go. That's a tough spot. When you say every offensive coach with that play call yearns, it's not the tackle and the end. It's just if you get the one-on-one, or it's not one-on-one, it's actually kind of one-on-3.
He's just banking that he's not going to be there.
Yeah, because if one other D lineman there, you're in trouble. But if it's just the one guy, he's got problems.
And part of it is Bosa makes a lot of good plays in the run game because he crashes so hard. But Mahomes
did today from the backside.
Yeah, Mahomes ran for 66. Mahomes ran for 66 yards in this game. I thought maybe
I thought he had a couple of moments running where you realize he's a way better athlete than I even think people that talk about football talk about him as. The run he had on the keeper, just how fast he was moving. I think he's faster than people realize. He doesn't look like he's running as fast, but how many plays now over the course of his career with his legs when he's had to is he running by guys?
Yeah, he's
definitely deceptively fast.
He also has such good feel for when to do it. Like part of it, when you see him do it, you realize that he could do it more than he does it. He could do it more than he does it. He doesn't do it as much as he could. He really saves it for big spots.
Would you say this game is going to be remembered as a bigger win, more historic win on the Andy Reid career, or a more devastating loss for Kyle Shanahan?
I think because it's the third for Mahomes and Andy. I mean, ultimately, Brady and Belichick had some. I guess really the one game that isn't remembered as theirs is the 28-3 comeback. They came back from 28-3 down, and that gets remembered as the Falcons screwing it up more so than them bringing it back. I mean, I do think it's when you're a dynasty, it tends to be your side of it that gets remembered. So I do think that's what it'll be. I mean, for most people, that's not how I'll remember it. But
there's a small group of teams that have done, in our lifetime, back-to-back the Niners in the late 80s, Cowboys, the Patriots. I mean, it's not many teams go back-to-back Super Bowls.
Yeah,
that in itself is an incredible accomplishment. And then you already got the other one that they beat the Niners. I think this loss is worse. And I know it's fresh. It just happened an hour ago or whatever. This feels worse. Because ultimately, Tyreek Hill caught it.
Explain to me why it feels worse. Because it sounds like you're saying
you outplay him again. Outplay him again. Their team on offense is not as good. Your defense is coming to play. You have the lead multiple times in the second half. You come back and score. So what? They go up 16-13.
Yeah. I got it here. What do you got?
So it's 16-16.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Niners kick the field goal, correct?
Correct.
They get 19-16. So
right.
You have a lead. They got the ball back with a couple minutes to go.
1:53 is when the Kansas City drive starts.
You have a lead with 1:50 to go in the Super Bowl, and your defense has been playing awesome, and you got a chance. And you had them in multiple, you got a 3rd and 7. Now he smoked Warner on the play. Kelsey did, which was I wrote down an incredible Andy Reid play call. And I mean, it's a tough match for Warner. But again, you have a late lead. They did not have the lead with $1:50 to go in the last Super Bowl. They had a 3-point lead. And then in overtime, you also have the lead. Now, the rules have changed since then, right? Even since the last Super Bowl that went
Patriots Falcons.
Yeah. But you had the lead with 1:50 to go in the game, and then you had the lead in overtime. That to me is worse. You have the lead multiple times at the end of the game. You did not in that game. That thing.
No, I'm convinced. Yeah, no, I'm convinced.
I think it's easily worse now because that thing was once the dam opened, you just got flooded and you died. This thing, it was we're going to fucking win the Super Bowl.
You had your
just hit a
moments where you
goddamn
got
field goal. Moody hit 2 50-plus yard field goals. Drilled them. If I told you Moody in a big game, you had a late lead, drilling 50-yard field goals, you're like, it's meant to be.
When Moody came out for the second one, they're like, this will be 53. I didn't realize how far they were for the one that gave him the lead at the end.
I knew the first one because they said it sent a Super Bowl record.
Yeah, that one. But I'm saying the one that made it 19-16, he's like, this will be from 53. I was like, oh, shit. I thought it was going to be from 38. You know? But
in a weird way, I wanted the Chiefs to lose so desperately. But I didn't think Moody deserved to hold the Super Bowl record. I'm glad once Butker got him, like, yeah, it feels probably more right that Moody does not hold this record. But I also think that, like, this game makes you feel a lot better about the young man, big picture, on a bright note. Like, the bright notes of the week was Trent Williams saying, I'm going to be back a couple more years. Moody draining field goals. You did lose Greenlaw to a year-long injury. Not ideal. You did lose the Super Bowl, but you did have some positive things happen.
I like that, John.
I just don't think you can have a late lead, even if you're playing MJ or Tiger or whoever, and have it not sting really bad.
Yeah,
I think that's always worse. I really. I
think the other part that makes it hurt. I think you convinced me on that.
Purdy didn't throw a pick. Could have.
Could have. Yeah, I think the other part that made it hurt is that, like, you look up and Debo had 3 touches in the pass game for 33 yards and 3 carries for 8 yards. Like, you didn't really get a lot from him today. He got targeted 11 times. I don't put it on him as much as just you rely on the offense to get him open, get the ball in his hands, and let him do something. And they just couldn't really get on the ball. They couldn't get the ball in his hands. The deep ball to him never works.
I do think the Chiefs felt pretty good about the matchup, the way they play, physical corners, get up in you against Debo Samuel, because he's not Mr. Route Runner. Who was being able to get open? Ayuk, great route runner. Debo's thing is much more, you're going to play off or whatever. Kyle gets you open. Well, what happened today on the one bomb? To me, it wasn't even close. McDuffie was all over him.
John,
it was all over him.
I would have before.
And they tried to run him a couple times, and the Debo's runs. It's hard to say he didn't try, but it felt like he was kind of slow footing it and nowhere to go, and then he got destroyed.
I said this before you came on, but I know I've said it to you before. Going back to training camp, that deep ball to Debo, I always felt like they ran it once a practice, just because Debo like wants them to, just to give him a shot. I've never seen that play work.
I love the guy, and he's had some of the most incredible moments as a sports fan, especially being at the game live in LA when he had the double pass. And remember that game, he was running the ball. He's been an incredible war daddy. I would say there's a chance he's not on the team next year. Like, something's going to happen. That's just the way the NFL works. You just don't roll it back for 5 straight years. It's not the NBA. So they're going to have to do stuff. Armstead makes a ton of money. He was good today. I mean,
he was.
If he played like this all year long, you wouldn't even discuss him this way. But you start getting up there in age, once you start getting in that NFL range of like a $15+ million player, the way you're talked about, I just know in the building is like your margin for error about like just having a spot on scholarship of like, if things ever go a little weird or injuries happen or you get exposed against certain type teams, you just get discussed. I mean, I just think there are certain guys that are just 100% locks that they wouldn't even come up. And then there's just that group that's just something to keep an eye on. And they're all 15 to $20 million guys. It's Armstead, Debo, and Kittle. Because you do have, I think Kyle's going to feel even better about Brock after today. Just about how calm he was and just under control. I think the 49er team is also made to, they'd be a fucking incredible dome team. They feel so much faster, don't they? Don't they?
Well, Moody, both these, like Moody, I'm like, it goes to show, after Shanahan got asked about it like 3 weeks ago, like, Kyle, why'd you kick it short in the Packer game? Like, no, I think he just didn't hit it right. I don't think Moody's hit touchbacks ever since. I think Kyle went to Schneider and was like, hey, coach, we are not kicking it short and letting dudes return it. They kicked one to the goal line against the Packers. It almost cost them their season. Moody's been putting it through the uprights ever since.
Just do what Bucker does. Just kick it into the stands.
Well, they're
right?
doing it now. They started doing it, but it took a minute. Kyle's finally got engaged in special teams.
I'm not going to try to break down special teams. I think he clearly mishit it a little bit, like off his heels. The guard and the center, though, were destroyed. They were both like this, and the Chiefs were like this.
Well,
I mean,
all
they,
I know
they
is
were.
this is why Feely's there. He blamed the kick.
Yeah,
it looked like Brady's driver with a stock driver. It was the same contact as Brady's driver.
It did not get close to getting over. The guard was just getting ransacked. I thought on the next long field goal, or just on the important field goals after moving forward, I was like, I would put Trent Williams at guard. Or wherever the angle he has to kick, that's where I would put Trent.
The problem is he doesn't always kick it over the left guard's head. Like sometimes it feels like if it's
it felt like both his kicks were on the right hash.
Yeah,
he drilled him today.
He drilled him today. As Josh Dubow told me this week, John, he was 4 of 4 in Allegiant Stadium during the like the blue-gray game, or the whatever they call it, not the Senior Bowl. What's the other game?
East-West.
The East-West Shrine. He hit 2 51-yarders in the East-West Shrine game at Allegiant Stadium. So,
are you telling me Jake Moody got drafted in the 3rd round and didn't even go to the Senior Bowl?
Was he a senior? He had to have been, right? Kickers are always seniors.
Death taxes and Moody.
Maybe he did both. I don't know.
Felt like Harbaugh would have been proud of him today.
I think Harbaugh was there.
Big Dom was,
because
when Dubow tweeted out the 49ers are 1-0 with Big Dom in the stadium. I thought there's no way they can lose.
Yeah, I saw. But you sent me that picture of Big Dom behind like Matt Ryan. What was he doing on the sidelines? Who was he running security for?
Lurie was with Jeffrey, who tried to give Andy a big hug. And
Pre-game?
Andy actually gave Dom the bigger hug. It's like Andy's like, bro, we got a divorce about a decade ago. Like,
did he handshake him?
No, he gave him a quick hug. Yeah, I know you made me a lot of money. I made you a lot of money too. It was kind of awkward. With Dom, it was not. With Jeffrey, it felt like Jeffrey, like, you're trying to piggyback off this? Like, this is Chiefs Niners, buddy. I thought maybe the NFL just sent Dom to handle the streaker. Florio was like, it's the biggest, you're supposed to have the most security in the world for any event, and a streaker gets on the field, and someone's like, what do you want him to do? Shoot the kid? Like, what if they fucking, if they miss him, they miss him, and he gets out there.
Like, have you seen the stadium security? It's just some dude standing there looking up into the stands. You can jump down and sprint, and it takes him a second.
I can't imagine. I mean, the kid probably got the free ticket, but streaking.
I couldn't even tell what the ad was. I saw a photo.
It was an ad.
What was it? I just saw it was like had stuff writing on his chest and like Sharpie. I couldn't tell what it was.
It's probably like some social movement. They're getting funded by something. It's some radical. It's a big ass house that doesn't even give a fuck.
You remember when the U.S. was what is it? The U.S. Open, the tennis event, where the guy super glued his feet to the concrete.
Yeah. Wants to stop eating pig or something.
PETA. It's always PETA. Super chat here from Josh. He says on both 4th downs, the analytics said to go for it. The Chiefs didn't celebrate the 3rd down stop in OT. When the kicking team came out, they were giddy. They couldn't believe anybody would be that stupid. When Kyle kicked, he lost. The Chiefs were giddy. They couldn't believe he was that stupid. Did you think the Niners should have gone for either 4th down?
No. In overtime, I think you had to kick. You couldn't have no points with them because you had stopped them for field goals. You're not playing Tyreek Hill and a younger Travis Kelce. I had no problem with him accepting. I saw a lot of people like, why did he accept? Because you cannot have Purdy go on the field down 7 points. I would have felt no chance. Do you agree with that?
I agree, but not for that reason necessarily. Although I do think that's part of the
when I say Purdy, I just mean would you have faith with the offense rolling out?
Yeah, you just take
down 7.
Yeah, you take a little pressure off your offense when you take the ball first. I think more so your defense had just been on the field and they just driven the ball on your defense. So their offense is vibing and your defense is gassed. So to me, that's why you take the ball first in that spot.
I don't know why.
It was going to work that they got the ball first to start the game too until the fumble.
Would you have faith on 4th and 4 they would have got a 1st down or scored a touchdown?
No, but I do think no.
I guess at the time I didn't even cross my mind.
No, but I will say this: like if it's 4 down territory, I would have faith. If you told me 3rd and 4, you got 2 downs to pick up 4, you're just going to give it to Christian on 3rd down. Like to me, fuck. If you know you got 2 downs to get 4, you give it to Christian on 3rd down, and it's just
he called a play that he was going to kick a field goal. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, or score a touchdown on the play.
Yeah, but he called a play without like he wasn't trying to get 3 yards to put himself in a more advantageous position to get a first down on 4th and 1. Or what was it? It wasn't 3rd and goal, was it?
No, it's third and 4.
3rd and 4, yeah.
At
But
the
he wasn't thinking 4 down territory with the way he called that play. He was trying to score a touchdown, or at least get the first down. Like Juwan Jennings ran basically a route to the sticks, which worked. God, Juwan Jennings was awesome today. That guy's a good player.
Look at this super chat. Kyle says, "I bet Juwan Jennings Super Bowl MVP at 30,000 to 1 in Reno. The $40 ticket would have paid out $12,000.
If he completes that ball to Juwan,
no way. 30,000 to 1. There's no way that was those odds are ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I bet it.
You think so?
It drops pretty precipitously.
Wow, Kyle, he was going to win it if they had won the game. You agree with that?
Yeah, I mean,
I guess Christian would have had 160 total yards. Could have been Christian.
If he completes that to Juwan and he gets in the end zone, 2 touchdowns, the game winner, assuming that. Do you think the last drive by the Chiefs goes any different if they score a touchdown there, or the same thing happens?
Same thing might happen. I don't know. That's where I think like the Moody missed extra point. If Moody makes the extra point, you're up 4. Then Andy goes for the touchdown on the next drive, and he might take the lead by 3.
And you play your drive differently. It throws everything. It changed everything. I saw a lot of people like, we'd be up. No, it's just the game would, because they would have tried to get into a position where they could run out the clock because he only had a couple timeouts, a couple first downs. I don't think that extra point ultimately, you know what's sick? I liked him missing the extra point because it put me in the sweet spot of threes. Rooting because the extra point, they could have won the game by 1 point.
Oh, because then the Chiefs take it, go up 4.
No, I'm saying if the Niners had been up, by 1 point at the end of the game instead of playing for the tie, or because there was a moment when it was 16-16, it could have been 17-16. It throws off the strategy of the game. It's hard to play that after this is what would have happened. No, it would have been very different. Some of those blitzes, Spag's the greatest blitz calling defensive coordinator ever. Like his blitzes are because clearly Kyle knows they're coming. He's had 2 weeks to prepare against this guy. I would imagine Kyle would never admit this. What are the chances that Kyle over the last 2 weeks watched the Patriots Super Bowl in 2007 and just some of his like big games, what he likes to go to, what he's comfortable with? 100%. So it's not like you went like I didn't expect that corner cat, but how's it working so easily? It works, and maybe it's because his plays are his plays. Like they are. They're the bread and butter. Everything is off that. Like that Debo tunnel screen or whatever they consider it is a huge part of like they have like 3 things off that play, right? That's just a huge staple of their offense, which is kind of crazy. Not many NFL teams, and it works. I'm not anti the play. The problem is when you have physical DBs and aggressive DBs, that play is difficult to function. The one play it hit for Debo, he got like 7 yards. Yeah. When that play's hitting against fucking whoever, week 6, that thing's going for 25 with him pumping his chest going like this. And you're like, it's on. The Chiefs were like, okay, 7 yards. Good shit there, guys. It's one of your best plays.
They really lacked explosive.
Debo was a non-factor.
I know. They just didn't have as many explosive I'll call the run game and the screen game. They hit a few over the middle, but they didn't really have any big sideline plays. The one to Conley early in the game. Conley was really good in this game, by the way.
How about the tackle?
He had multiple. He had the one, he gets down to the 2, and the ball kicks right to him on special teams.
I think the Chiefs have something that the Niners will just never have. That they have this defensive coordinator that's just going to be their lifetime defensive coordinator till Andy wants to call it quits, and he's just not going to get another job. Even he gave the quote, I think, at media day, like, I sometimes I hope, but I'm not naive enough. As long as we're winning Super Bowls, I can live with. I'm probably never getting another shot. If we weren't, like, it would be hard to stomach. But he's like, they have a defensive coordinator that's never going anywhere. There can't be another coach in the league at this point that has that level of trust. Like he's now equivalent of like what Monty Kiffin was when we were younger in Tampa Bay, or Dick LeBeau all those years with Mike. it's kind of the antithesis and the opposite. Like that's Kyle definitely had that with D'Amico. I think he trusted him, and rightfully so. He would not have done that on D'Amico, even if D'Amico was wrong. The trust level is, if you can't trust, it's like if you can't trust your wife with your bank account, if you can't trust your defensive coordinator with a play call in the Super Bowl, it's like there's no trust here. It doesn't exist. You don't have faith in this person. If you think when she goes to Vegas with her girl, she's going to cheat on you, like you're fucked.
I think fundamentally he thinks this guy doesn't see the game the way I see the game.
I just don't know what he was supposed to call. Like they're just running zone. You want him to just run zone defense? Kyle, he's going right down the field on it. Like what other? If you don't want him to do that because it's not working, what's his other? What can he do? No blitzing. Well, even when you didn't blitz, sometimes Fred and these guys were just in no man's land.
It just feels like I don't know what it is. The timing was always bad, whereas Spagnuolo's timing was always right. Now, part of it was Spagnuolo just blitzed nonstop.
I just got a text from the guy that we went to cocktails with that just says all caps, Chiefs.
Tell him Haberman says congratulations. He was right.
This is fourth Super Bowl.
He was pretty confident at dinner and drinks, and I was.
I think his confidence honestly stemmed from
he wasn't cocky. He just felt good, rightfully so. Look at the dudes he's got. He's got Reed, Spagnuolo, Mahomes.
Do you know when I think you feel really good when you're on a team? It's like we have an elite pitching staff.
Yeah,
we have they think in their mind, and rightfully so, we have an elite defense.
And they got Mahomes. And they've had
that. I'm saying what takes it to another level of like because they're missing some guys. They've had the confidence and the cockiness with him. It's like, we had Jordan and Pippen, then we had Rodman, and we get Derek Harper. Like our defense is unstoppable. Their defense is unstoppable. Like think how good their defense was these last 2 weeks against Lamar. The Ravens 10 points, the Niners 19 points in regulation, and then they held them to a field goal in overtime.
When they were on the goal line, right? Niners had first and goal at the. Where were they? Juice got the first down. Great play. Then McCaffrey gets 6 yards, so it's 2nd and 4. Like inside the 10-yard line, right? Just about.
I thought Purdy made 2 of the best plays of his career.
Which
scramble thing to Christian. Just given what was on the line of that play.
Yeah.
Just kind of like went and did a dump off. Christian with the incredible hezzy in the open field. And then the scramble thing to Juice, which I thought, is that getting overturned in the regular season? I thought his elbow might hit the white before even the ball hit, but I don't know the rule.
I agree that he was making a football play, like while he turns to lunge for the pylon. I think that's a football play, meaning like he had secured the ball. But boy, I was like, they're going to review this and this is not a catch. They're going to review this and this is not a catch.
One thing I would do if I was the coaches at the next league meeting, like I do like, in the overtime, in the playoffs, in the Super Bowl, everyone gets to touch it. We deserve one review each. Wouldn't you? If you were a coach in that meeting, wouldn't you want one red flag, 3 timeouts, 1 red flag? I'd almost in overtime, if we're just starting over or whatever, you could take one of my timeouts away if you gave me a challenge flag.
Yeah,
because it's like, are they going to challenge anything? Because there were a couple times, one thing on the Niners thing and the other with the Chiefs, we just kept going, and you're like, I would not want to put it in the trust of the league.
There were 2 spots that I thought the Chiefs got kind of screwed on. Definitely the Kelsey spot when they were like deep in their own territory, which was a big deal because then they got stopped on 3rd down, that he got a first down.
Well, the one where Warner tackled him like a lion, it looked like Pacheco, even Romo was like, it looks like he's a first down. Now the angle was kind of weird, but still, it was pretty close.
Yeah, both those plays.
That was the 4th and 1 that Mahomes ran.
Yep,
in the
that's
overtime.
right. That's right. And I thought for sure
Fred fucking leaped from like 17 feet away like this.
Fred was good, man.
He had to be because Greenlaw tore his Achilles running out to get in the huddle. That's one of the worst injuries I've ever seen, honestly, for an individual. Like that's
it's the craziest thing that happened in that crazy ass game. That was the craziest thing that happened. That's insane.
2 of the first 3 plays, he hit people so hard. He
was
out for fucking blood.
He was getting a penalty. Just watch, not on a particular play, just like the way he was playing.
Yeah. But he's a big loss of like maybe he forces a fumble. He's so good in the run game. Even Owen Burks and their backup linebackers actually tackled pretty well for the most part. Like it didn't feel like they were whiffing, but there's a drop off. I mean, Greenlaw is just probably a top 15 linebacker in the league, right? Of all like the legit starters, he's definitely him. He's the best number 2.
God,
he might be a top 10 linebacker.
I might go top 10.
Yeah, he probably is. I mean, maybe there aren't some of the linebackers aren't even that good. Some of the older guys now.
What did you think? Actually, let me read this before I ask you this question. Mike, super chat, absolutely heartbreaking. Where does the team go from here? What is the next step supposed to be for this team? I think one of the questions is just going to be, how do you come back from this? Like, can you keep coming back from these heartbreaking? It's going to really test. They're going to get really tested.
I don't know if you can.
John, the Juwan Jennings throwback touchdown, ballsy or insane?
I think part of the Super Bowl is having you got to do. I liked it. No, they got a little lucky. However, yeah, I have no issue with throwing.
When Jennings had his arm cocked back, did you like it?
No, but then he walked in the end zone.
You said to me, and it's the same thing I thought was like, he's throwing it back. He must be throwing it back to Purdy.
I think as a game like that goes on, every time the Chiefs would punt, I'd go, get ready for the fake punt. Get ready for the fake punt. It's just one of in the Super Bowl historically is when you just throw it all at the wall and see what sticks. And then, I wouldn't say Kyle's a huge trick play guy. It's not something he's super comfortable with. But I do think, guy, they had fucking 19 points in regulation. Where are they without the trick play? I mean, how long was that? 35 yards, 40 yards?
Yeah, that play it was second down in the red zone. So they were in good shape on that drive. I guess he was so
far back. That's why he ran so far. What were they on, like 20-yard line? I felt like he ran 30 yards.
They were in the red zone. So it was around the 20. I didn't write down the exact yardage.
I guess because you throw it back and Christian's back, you're catching it 5-7 yards behind the line of scrimmage. How about Burford, the play he made on the dude coming in to pick it?
Yeah,
he leaps to him. I don't know, man. That was one of the highlights of the game for sure.
Warren Sharp just posted the touchdown to win the game was almost like the same play they ran last year to tie the game against Kansas City or to take the lead against the Eagles.
I kind of blacked out. I honestly don't even know the player who caught it. I just
it was Hardeman. I think it was Hardeman, right? Or
it's
Hardeman.
Just classic. Andy
he said he blacked out.
Did it feel like there was anyone in a 5-yard radius of him when he caught it?
No, it was a very anticlimactic. You hate to see it end on a walk-in touchdown. At least I do. Chiefs fans.
Well, what I thought the way it was going to end, were they just going to pound Pacheco up the middle once they got that first down with like first and goal at the 3?
I know.
I'm like, I think losing that way is you're just laying on the ground, a couple D linemen and linebackers, and the guy's just over and everyone's piling on. I would rather probably lose the way they lost it than have them just slam it a couple times and score. Because that's what I thought they were going to do.
Yeah.
Didn't you? Once he gets the first down.
A slow bleed out. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you stop him at like the half-yard line, and then it's second, and you just know he's just coming these next two plays.
I don't know. I'd rather the players win it and lose it on the field. I guess they did, but then just kind of feeling like you just got tricked. Their coaches be your coaches in the biggest spots,
Let's face it. This is probably why he can't come back. Because you go, well, next year we got Ben Johnson's back. Sean McVay's team's going to be older and a little better. LaFleur's coming with Jordan Love. We're going to play all these teams, either in the regular season. I don't even know what their schedule is yet, but the playoffs. The playoffs are going to be full in the NFC of just offensive guys. Let's hypothetically, maybe the Eagles are a little better. Kellen Moore gets them going. Can Steve Wilkes, if our offense isn't humming, the playoffs are hard, do we trust this guy? That's where he probably just can't come back because you just don't. Because no Niner fan would be like, you're getting what percentage, not that Kyle gives a what, but would anyone red flag it? Would anyone be like, Give the guy a second year, Kyle. He's going to get no pushback. Now, the question is, what are your options? Who do you hire? I think for him to get fired,
Danton Lynn.
I think he'd have to know who he's hiring. I don't think he would just fire. Do you agree with that? Would he just fire him blind?
No, I don't think he would. But I think it'd be hard for him not to. At this point, every other job is filled. So he knows who's out. Like, he'll know who's out there pretty quickly, right? You call Bill. We know they call Tom. They'll call Bill. Danton Lynn, Anthony's kid, who's USC's DC. They hired him from UCLA. Good
you
coach,
think
yeah.
Bill? No one's naive enough to think like, because I ever get this. I've posted a couple times on Twitter, like over the last month. They're like, Bill's not. We all get it. Like, Bill does not need to do it. He did get shut out, and he's going to be a year older. And clearly, there's a lot of negativity surrounding him. It wasn't just people lined up to just fucking. The Eagles ultimately kept Sirianni and decided not to hire Belichick. They had the option. They might regret it in a month, but they had the option. They decided to do that. It doesn't look like the television thing. Like, I think he'd be pretty cool on Amazon. Just 1 year, just get rid of Herb Street, give Bill a chance. That'd be the perfect way. Every owner at their house, literally every owner, right, beside the two in the game, watch that game.
And the two at the game meet him.
100 exactly. That would be by far be better than even any Sunday day or morning game. Every owner would see him. He could let his personality and he could jolt back up. If that's not an opportunity, you would say just like him going to Kyle and beating the shit out of everybody, he would get a job, right?
Not only would he get a job, I actually think people are going to think this is crazy. I think it would add to his legacy. That he puts the now, if you're Kyle, you're like, if there's ego involved and you're Kyle, you don't want it to be that you had to go to Belichick to put you over the top. But at this point, who gives a shit? You just want to ring.
Who gives a shit? And what are your other options?
And by the way, you get credit for hiring Bill. Like, Bill's willing to work for you. Like, Bill doesn't just work for anybody. So go put your little super team together in the coaching staff.
I would say at minimum,
I think it adds to Bill's
you would
legacy.
need to get. He would have this is even above Kyle. Like, is Jed willing to give like $15 million for him 1 year defensive coordinator?
I think I don't think there'd be any question Jed would be willing to do that. How could he not be willing to do that?
25.
I think if you told Jed, I think Jed has shown
$1 million a game.
I think what Jed has shown is
preseason included.
He will do what Kyle, to his credit, what Kyle and John Lynch tell him they need to do. And the time to draw a line in the sand is not when they come to you and say, we can hire Bill Belichick as our defensive coordinator. That is not the time to put your foot down for the first time. So, yeah, I mean, you do it if you can do it. That's one way to reignite the turnaround in offseason after a loss. You hire Belichick to be your DC. Now, like Belichick and Kasarik, I mean, you'd have to. Feels like they run Kasarik's defense, right? Go back to the Nick Bosa quote, like, it took Wilkes a while to figure out what we do around here. Basically,
Bill's not big on gap sound with his defensive linemen,
but
just running around up the field. And when your mentor, who was it that showed? Was I with you? Who showed me? Oh, yeah, it was when Lombardi, when talked to Kasarik, and all you want to talk about Jim Washburn, wide nine up the field.
If you guys want to know how crazy shit got in Vegas, just understand me, John, Lombardi, a dude from the Chiefs, we're sitting around a table at 2 a.m., drinking a lot, reading Kasarik quotes. At the Cosmo.
Yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do?
Eating pizza, drinking vodka sodas. So that's, I don't know. It was one of my favorite nights.
And the thing is, everyone knew there was a lot on the line. However, this thing was gonna break, right? It was gonna be. You knew it. This was a big Super Bowl. There was just a lot of either the swing to this legendary win. I mean, this puts them in the pantheon of teams now of our life. Like, takes them to another level. And you also feel it like, God, Kyle is just, he's simply in his own category right now. Like there's just no one else. Like McVay gets to even just talk to Andy about their ring.
Yeah.
Right?
Kyle is you're saying like one of the best coaches in the league who has just continually whiffed on the Super Bowl.
Well, that's why it was like McVay got there, or he got back and he got that win.
And you got to John, you got to win it like right away. Sometimes
it's so hard. Like what
Tomlin run it right away. McVay, Peyton won it right away. Pete Carroll won it right away. McCarthy won it right away.
Andy's kind of an outlier, isn't he?
Well, Kyle's really trying to follow that path, and that's a tough path to follow. But
it is a lucrative path.
Yeah, that's what we're like. Michael says, what's the next step supposed to be for this team? Yeah, it's going to be mental toughness. They're going to have a good roster again next year, right? Even if they have to move a guy off the team, or they're going to have a good roster. And I think you got to come out of this game. If you said, what are the scenarios where they lose, but you still come out feeling good about Purdy? To me, that was one of the scenarios right there. Brock looked completely comfortable in that game.
I think Kyle feels better about him now.
But one thing we've seen repeatedly in these big games is there's going to be 2 or 3 throws where he gets pressure and he gets pressure around him. And I've been saying this for a few weeks now. I think it's really where you see the height issue come into play.
So you got to get him on the move, guy.
Yeah, I know. But he misses 2 or 3 throws a game he does miss 2 or 3 throws a game because of his height. It just that's happened consistently in the postseason.
Get him outside the pocket so we could see. Get him outside the pocket so we could see. What is like Ken Rosenthal when he's interviewing a dude after the World Series? He's on a bucket. Like you got to aid.
I don't know if he is.
Well, I've seen people do that. Aren't you on a bucket sometimes in a broadcast for standing with a super tall guy?
I did a game with Lincoln Kennedy, and I was on a stand. And even then, sometimes you sit on the table. There's some dudes are so wide, like Lincoln, that it's just I could stand on a ladder and I would still be a third of his width, But yeah, put him on a bucket.
The blitzes, the arms up. There were a couple tip balls that weren't like typical tip ball, like right at the line of scrimmage, but the guy was a little past and just tipped it a little bit. Like he's just throwing at a lower angle. So to help him out, and he keeps proving how great of a player he is on the move and outside and instinctive. I'd say some of the greatest plays of his career, like through the year and a half, have been just outside making incredible plays. Kyle's like, let's just play him like he's fucking Peyton. Like,
how about the play he made?
Get him moving.
John, how about the play he made on the second drive that got called back because of the Trent Williams hold? Trent Williams went false start hold on back-to-back plays. Purdy had rolled all the way out to his left and then did like, oh shit, here we go. All the way back across. It was like a 2nd and 18, and he throws it all the way back across the field to Kittle. Maybe it was 2nd and 15 to Kittle, and Kittle gets the first down, which would have been a big Kittle play. That was a great play.
Incredible. His best plays are moving around. I mean, can Kyle just add some of those to the playbook?
Well, he's going to get his first offseason with Brock now. Right? Brock was rehabbing last offseason. Do Brock and Kyle spend some time together this offseason? And does Brock get any greater ownership over this offense? That's eventually what happens with. I know.
No, I know. Not this year.
That's eventually what happens with quarter. They go, hey, coach, here's a few things I think would help me. Can we implement a few things here?
I just think one thing that really stood out tonight, when you think about the offensive play caller and the star players, is Andy, like when it really matters, does what those guys do really well, right? Like moved Kelsey a couple times, got him on the move, either crossing or the out route. And Kelsey's such a natural of catching it and like his momentum. He's like he's one of the great pass catchers, receiver, tight end ever. And you get him on the move because he wasn't having as much success working the zones. So they got him on the move on the one. They got him on the move on the out route. They got Mahomes on the move. They got Rice on the crosser. And Kyle's like forcing the offense. And what happened? What were their 2 biggest plays in overtime? Purdy, ad-lib. McCaffrey, kind of ad-lib. Juice, ad-lib. Oh, it's like, Brock, Kyle, you got athletic guys. And like you said, it's just basic math. He's fucking 6 feet tall. I love this. He's like not that much shorter than Mahomes. Just it's clearly a disadvantage for one guy, and it doesn't affect the other guy. Like the height thing is not the end of the world because he still makes good plays from the pocket, but it does limit him if the play takes a little bit, right? If it's the quick hitter and the guy's open, Juwan Jennings he can hit it because he's an accurate player. a huge part of Drew Brees over the years was like quick offense. Got rid of the ball really fast. He wasn't just and he was incredible. And Purdy's getting better at this for sure. He couldn't move like Brock, so it was like I had to be elite at like the kind of moving in the pocket to kind of see the lanes. Where Brock, in fairness, he can move, so sometimes he'll like kind of take off. But if a guy's kind of corralling him, then he has to stay in the pocket, and he kind of gets swarmed. But Kyle doesn't have like the Andy Reid, just like we're just passing it. And I think he would say, well, my fucking I don't trust my tackle or come my guards. I'm like, well, just get it, chip, and just get him on the move. He's proven fast enough. And if something fucks up, he's also kind of proven to be smart enough. Like he'll just get rid of the ball. He brings all this stuff to the table that it feels like Kyle's underutilizing because he's like, my offense, which no one's arguing doesn't work a lot of the time. But this is football. Sometimes you need your guy to make a play, and he's proven he can make plays. He's got some limitations in the pocket. He does not as a playmaker. It's like one of his strengths.
He answered one question all year long, and he answered it again today. He is athletic enough to get away from the best defensive players in the NFL, even if it's just to avoid a sack or to get the ball out. The other thing to your point, when you get him on the move, like your running backs, your receivers, they all block, right? So you can use other guys to help him create space when he's on the perimeter. Flav Super Chat says, bottom line, you can't muff a punt in the red zone, fumble, miss a PAT, have 4 starters go down, and win a Super Bowl. Shanahan was better this year. Players have to execute. O-line needs a lot of improvement too. I mean, these are Super Bowls. Like, you're going to have a bunch of shit go wrong. They're going to have a bunch of shit go wrong. And the question is, who's going to overcome all their mistakes? Mahomes even said it afterwards. Like, this was a crazy road. We overcame a lot. They had a ton of stuff go wrong. Somebody won the Super Bowl and was going to win the Super Bowl. And always somebody wins the Super Bowl with stuff going wrong, overcoming. You're not playing your A+ game.
From the Chiefs locker room, that was a fucking grind. And that to me, that defined their run was like, honestly, the Niners were grinders. And then those 2 playoff games happened. You're like, God, they don't look the same. I know they had good comeback wins, but they're like toughness. Their grit felt like, and it came back this game. That's where I think it hurts. Is like, this was the gritty, physical Niner team that was so defensively, that was good a lot of the season. Like, you felt the way they were playing, the way the game started, the way their defensive line was playing. The guys were just making plays. Obviously, they have some limitations with the safeties. How about the one where the bomb that he hit and Gibson just like stops? It's like, fucking turn around, the ball hits you right in the hands. He just stopped. He just like stopped. Happened a couple times. Ayuk ran, kind of stopped. Kittle stopped on one.
Well, Kittle had his back turned on the McCaffrey fumble too. I mean, he was blocking, but luckily on the Gibson play, they forced a fumble on the next play, got to stop, right? I mean, Chiefs had a red zone fumble. It came on the play after the Gibson.
That was a big play.
So, game lost on the 3 plays guy mentioned. I have to put this one on Kyle again. Sadly, Kyle still doesn't see what's needed to get these. Low on Shanahan right now. David says, Niners D shut out Green Bay in the 4th, shut out the Lions in the second half, just a garbage TD, had a strong Super Bowl for most of it. Dan Quinn gets a head coaching job. Wilkes gets shafted.
We'll fucking hire Wilkes to be your head coach. Well, Godspeed. We'll give him a thumbs up on your fucking out the door. Dan Quinn got fucking curb stomped. I mean, I don't, no one cares. I'm rooting for, trust me, everyone's rooting for Steve Wilkes to get a head coaching job. No one's like we just saw the level of defense that was needed to win the Super Bowl and the biggest play call. And I don't pretend to know, but I just know what he's doing is not working, and the other coach knows what's coming. That's the problem. Like, they're in an X's and O's game. This is an intellectual warfare of football. That's what it really kind of became, right? On those big moments in the 4th quarter. It was like the will of the players, and I would say the other thing that was pretty represented, where both teams deserve a lot of credit. This ain't walk-through football teams. This ain't a bunch of teams just fucking lollygagging in December at practice. You don't have that level of stamina if you don't practice your ass off. This was a high-level physical game. I wasn't on Twitter that much during the game. I would imagine, people that don't have Niners, Chiefs, or money on the game, like, this game sucks. maybe I don't know if that was the case or not. Low scoring games typically. I loved it. Now again, a lot of money Niners. I'm inclined to like a level of game where big hits, every yard's hard. It becomes very schematically driven in the big spots. That's what it came down to. Like you said, the big spot on the 3rd and 4. It's just a huge play, a blitz from Andy, or from Wilkes or Spags, a tip ball because the blitzer comes perfectly untouched, or on the vice versa, where we get smoked is because 7 fucking Niners at the line of scrimmage, and somehow they got 4 guys and they all get blocked. Like the math, there's more red than Chiefs there, yet none of them get there in time. You're just like, how? I understand Wilkes is like, well, we got 8, they got 5. Yet then when it's like even, and then all of a sudden McDuffie comes from the other corner. It's like, God, he was a step away from sacking him, let alone tipping the ball. How's this making sense? Why? Schematics. That's the best part about football. It's just like, yeah, it's kind of execution. It's also, all these guys are making millions with the headset on for a reason. It's fucking impossible. No one knows what's going on except those guys. And Andy, like, that play call that worked that Warren Sharp put out, like, how did he know the guy was going to be fucking wide open? I didn't have great feel or, faith in whenever the Niners corners or safeties have to like pass off or keep. It's like they fuck that up all the time, don't they? It's like it happened a couple times. Even Romo pointed out, it's like, I think Logan Ryan was wrong on that one, and Warner. They never feel sure. The Chiefs DBs always felt pretty good about going with the right guy. Doesn't mean you're always going to stop him, but at least go with the right guy. Sometimes the Niners are like pointing there. What's that? That's on Steve Wilkes. So yeah, Dan Quinn got a job. I don't give a fuck. If Steve Wilkes, we've seen D'Amico Ryan. He was a big-time defensive coordinator. Right? Mike McDonald last week, they gave up 17 points. Like, I think that guy's a pretty big-time defensive coordinator. I've seen enough of Wilkes to know, like,
shut Mahomes out in the second half.
Something's a little off.
Yeah. Well, Kyle's actions say that too. Right. So
now, ideally, do you want to be playing Logan Ryan, who I don't know if I quite knew the details? That John Lynch, he was like, hey, John, I'm about to get on a cruise. Like, go to that cruise.
I'm
keep
on the
out.
cruise.
Oh, that's what it was. I was already there.
He's telling the story. He was on the cruise. Romo's telling the story, and then on the next play, he's like, I don't think he was supposed to blitz there. Making the mistake. Ambry,
obviously, playing guys you don't ideally want to play, but
I gotta wait to see. Did you see Ambry Thomas on the field today? I don't think they played him.
I don't remember. How could you, guy? He's been
he's been one of your key players. That means you're playing, a lot of Logan. You're just playing a lot of the guys.
Well, I'll tell you, whoever's on that field, this ain't Steve Wilkes making the personnel decisions for who's on the field.
Yeah. So you're right. I mean, you led me to something I was going to say, which is that I did see some. I didn't really realize it either. And then I saw a few of these, like, this game, classic Super Bowl game's brutal for 3 quarters, then it picks up in the 4th. I'm with you. That's not how I felt. Like, now maybe I'm just so invested. You're just so invested in the game. Probably the people watching this video or listening to this podcast are so invested in the game. But I thought it was just an excellent game. And I hate to say this right now. I didn't think I'd be able to reach this point on Sunday night, but if they had lost. But I do think it'll end up being one of I love the game. Like, I'm going to remember how good this game was and how shitty of a loss it was. But I do appreciate how good the Super Bowl was. It's one of my favorite Super Bowls, despite the ending, I think.
Well, it made it through a full overtime.
Yeah. They scored. If they had not run that play or had failed, we would have gone to the next overtime. There were 7 seconds, 6 seconds, 5 seconds. Like, the clock's running. Andy could have. That's the other thing. The Chiefs, we didn't mention this when it comes to Wilkes. The Niners did not handle the Chiefs' tempo well. The Chiefs did a lot of tempo against the 49ers, and the Niners did not handle it. And Andy just kept his foot down, and he did it at the end of overtime. He's just like, I just want to get to the next play against this defense, and it was really effective.
Well, it does 2 things, right? Wears out the strength, which was back again today, the D-line. And let's face it, like, coverage overall with the back end is going to be a question mark. I wouldn't call Gibson a lockdown cover guy. Jair Brown is a rookie, and whatever group of other corners beside Ward, like, didn't feel like they spent that much time going after Ward. They were going after. Now they don't have some potent passing.
Didn't really feel like they were going after it. Like they kind of just spread it around. I mean, Lenore made some plays. Lenore's good. You do feel good.
They were fine. The defense, their physicality, like they were ready physically. Just schematically, some stuff happens. Like, and I don't think you're saying or I'm saying like you normally get fired after that. It's just been a weird. There's been some moments. That's one of the most bizarre coaching moments I've ever seen.
The coach audibling your defense with the timeout. The head coach
who is the offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
After he was going to do the same thing that he had done a couple plays before, and it was pretty clear. And the broadcaster going, Kyle hated that defensive look. That's unheard of. And if that's Parcells and Belichick's their defensive coordinator, if it's one of those situations, I don't think it's that weird. It's like they weren't on the same page. This happens. I think it comes much more under the microscope when you have a relationship that's been just a little weird. And part of it is just expectations are really high, right? You coach the Orioles and you get 85 wins, you might get applauded. You win 85 wins for the Yankees, you might get fucking run out of town. The expectations for Steve Wilks were absurdly high, right? In defense of Steve Wilks. He was stepping into a situation that was very, very difficult. Anything less than feeling like you're the dominant defense of the league, which did not feel like that down the stretch.
I thought all things considered,
I'm talking the other two. I mean, the other two games were a hold on for your ass because of that unit, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, at one point during the Super Bowl, you're thinking like, oh, he got this. They got their act together in the last 2 weeks, right? Yep. Chase Young is like making plays all over the place. Their defensive line was getting after Mahomes in the first half, really disrupting the offense. Somebody, my buddy who played in the league texted me. He goes, I guess he listened to Shanahan postgame. He said, Shanahan said that they wanted the ball third in overtime. He goes, I think that's overthinking it. I'm fine if you want to start with the ball and give your defense a rest, but saying you want the ball third is overthinking it. I didn't hear it, but that's why Kyle's saying I want the ball first so I get the ball third. Like basically if we both do that, it's actually makes some sense, but I agree it's overthinking it. I just thought his defense was tired, but
to me, that one, I think that's going to be a legit subjective argument. There's so much depending on the game. Like you said, how gassed is everyone? Their defense was gassed as well. The pressure of I don't think it's a black and white decision that I would imagine tomorrow people are going to crush them for that one. And I don't think it's as strict down the line. Like you got to do this, you got to not do that. Just like some of their fourth downs. Like I didn't have, and I'm a pro go for it a lot of the times. Though maybe when I watch Kyle Shanahan, I don't expect him to go for it. So when he did on the one that I was I'd never crossed my mind that he was kicking a field goal or not kicking a field goal on 4th and 4. Never once. I never said go for it. It never.
Oh, yeah. He had to do it the time with Kittle because they're down. But our boy Ryan McGrady says, Ambry played 1 snap on defense, 7 on special teams. I think somebody else said the 1 snap was when Jair Brown got hurt, which was on the Kelsey tackle, which means that he was only on the field for the touchdown at the end of the game.
Probably. I mean, I kind of blacked out after that play, but I don't think he wouldn't have been on that side.
John, right? That game ended no, he wasn't over there. That game ended so fast. Normally you can go like, what the fuck? I just said no. That's all I had. I was like, no.
This is true.
Okay.
He said a couple times, I know it's only 2nd down, Jim, but this might be 4th down territory. They're on like their own 20. There's like 17 minutes left to go in the game. You're like, Tony, let's just take it. He must have been really excited. Maybe all the analytic guys are in his Jim. You might need to just run 3 plays. So if it's 4th and short, you're in position to go for it. He did mention that a lot.
I do think Tony. One thing he does a good job of. I think he really thinks ahead because he said it. He said it on a 2nd down, maybe said it on a 3rd down in the red zone where he's like, could be 4 out there. We'll get to that when we get there because right here you got to get this flag.
That was the one.
Oh, it was a 3rd. Maybe it was the IU. I don't remember which 3rd down it was.
Yeah, it was when they got it in overtime. They were at like the 26-yard line. I think it was like the play before he made to Christian McCaffrey. It's like, Tony, I think if they're getting stuffed here, they're punting. He's not going for it there on 4th down as he pinned back.
No, where a field goal beats you, you're giving him
He's
the
like,
ball.
yeah, maybe
in
this would be an
Butker's
easy one for
range.
Butker. Maybe it wouldn't be a great idea. Well, yeah, no shit, Tony.
He's just thinking all the options through, John. He's just thinking them all through out loud. I thought he was good today. After him and Nance got crushed in the New York Post 3 weeks ago, I thought they were good today.
By who? Andrew Marchand or one of those guys?
Yeah, Marchand wrote a big thing that like people think Tony, like clearly sourced from people at somebody around Tony that he doesn't study. Like they got crushed. And I thought it affected them in the Ravens game. And they were good today.
I think one problem for Tony is early on in his career, he became really famous for the play call things.
Yeah.
It was like, I think they're going to run like a crazy sweep. He nailed it all. It was people just weren't doing it at the level he was doing it. Then he ran out of those just because you're not as dialed in of going to these meetings and seeing it through that lens. And I think Troy, who I don't know if he got soft or whatever, but one thing Troy always had is like, he'll be talking like a fan. That was a moronic play. Like, I think people kind of like that. I know I do. And Troy kind of brought back, like, I'll talk some shit. And so it's what would Tony do when he's not calling the plays? Because he's never critical. He's like, I'm not the craziest thing, not the worst thing, might have been better. He's like never saying anything mean. And he's never really saying anything. He's always like, Collinsworth is kind of fun. He's kind of got like the Gruden, Madden, old school. This is his own little thing. Romo is just
Chris.
kind of in no man's land, I felt like, once the play calls, because he's never critical. He's never going to say, like, that's a moronic call by the defensive coordinator there, Jim. He never says anything critical.
He didn't say moronic, but he did say today on the pressure. That was the wrong decision. They shouldn't have done that on the Rashee Rice play.
I thought today was just normal. He was much more, I thought, under control today.
Yeah.
I thought today he was just a good broadcaster. Where if you watch him like a random, like, week 8 afternoon game, like, Jets, Dolphins, he just can be all over them. He's like,
kind of winging it.
Yeah, it just feels kind of freelancing. And one thing I think Marchand, I don't know, I didn't read the article, but I saw a bunch of people posting stuff, is that people felt like Jim hates him now. Did you get that? Did you read something like that? A lot of people think they don't like each other anymore.
Yeah, they're not vibing. Yeah.
And I would be like, well, Jim worked with Nick Faldo for fucking 15 years. He didn't say shit either. Someone was like, yeah, they're the only two guys that golf's their favorite, they make all their money in the NFL, but the football's their second favorite sport.
Yeah, Nance and Romo.
Yeah,
I saw that. That was good. Maybe you sent that to me. That was good. I feel like there's
Niners just lost the Super Bowl. So
Niners just lost the Super Bowl. Just another Sunday night, John. Unbelievable.
It worked on TV. I thought the stadium was sweet. If you're gonna have Andy Reid and the Chiefs host up, and the Hunt family, your stadium is pretty badass. That place is sweet.
It's an awesome. I've been there. Have you been there? Yeah.
I've never been inside.
It's an awesome stadium, and it looked great on TV, and all the kickers really kicked well there, and it looked good. I mean, that thing had everything except the result that this YouTube channel and podcast wanted. So, all right,
let's get some sleep, like Kyle.
He's not sleeping.
That's 3 Super Bowl losses in like 14 years.
Incredible.
I guess you could argue, is it better to loved and lived and than never loved at all? But getting there and losing sucks.
You'd like to think that when you win it just makes it sweeter, right? That was it for Andy. That was the case. But it's just so hard to get there. But the March for 6 starts tomorrow, John. Time for Kyle to get back on the horse. All right. On that note,
night, everybody.
Signing off. Goodbye.